Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I do thank you for tuning in. You know I do. Back home here after a nice trip up into Seattle last week. A chance to go to multiple practices, a chance to get down to the scrimmage, a chance to hang out with some fellow Seahawks content creators. You know, you get out here in your own little world of this, and you don't get out and about, and a chance to kind of interact with some of these guys. It was such a great all-around week as far as not only just to be able to see the players and see how practice, be able to hang out with those guys. So before we kick it off today, shout out to the Bryce Coots, Dan Viens, and my man Mookie Alexander out there at Field Goals for just a hell of a cool couple of days. We were able to all kind of take in practices and the scrimmage and whatnot and hang out, and it was really cool. But it was a great couple of days as well when it comes to, and Corbin Smith as well for coming down on the remote a couple of days ago. But it was a really fun day too for practices. To take it in, to get in there. I think that there is some real value in being able to go down there and get your eyes spotted on what they're doing and get very close. At the football game at the scrimmage, I was literally one row up from the bottom row, and I'm on one of the Seahawks benches on one of the sides. So it was pretty cool just to see some of the interactions amongst the players there on the sidelines, on the benches, uninterrupted, from camera angles or anything else. You just got a direct view into it. And it was pretty cool to see all of that. So I've got some pretty expansive thoughts here off of the rip, and it's going to be a bit of a flow of consciousness today when it comes to my experience because there's just a lot of kind of randomized notes in all different sections when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks team from what I saw. First off, let's go to just big picture stuff here, which is that this was a successful looking practice. This is a team that looks like it's in the right position that you'd like them to be to go out there and make some noise. The running game and the commitment to that is absolutely much more in a centerpiece point than we saw from last year's team. You feel more of an onus upon the offense trying to find the intermediate and short passing attack and lean on into that. So that part was also really good to see. But I think I would just point to two different things. And Mike McDowell mentioned it yesterday as I was putting the titles together of the show. So I knew I was on the right button with kind of mentioning it as one of the lead things that I saw, because I think he's feeling it too, which is physicality and intensity. Not just being strong to show off, but with a kind of an edge of physicality to it. The pads were popping, guys were getting after it. Sometimes it felt like guys were kind of ended up on the ground a little bit too often for my taste because you're holding your breath every single time it happens. But there was absolutely a feeling of these guys are getting after this. They care. They're going after it as hard as they possibly can. They're driving to get better. I think that, you think you're always going to feel this in every single practice everywhere, but I don't know if I was quite there with that intensity last year where it just kind of felt like at camp, even though it was intense at times, it was also a little bit of we're just kind of learning each other here kind of thing. And you could feel a little bit, whereas everything just felt a little bit more connected in how they did it this year, a little bit smoother in how the operation was running. And maybe it's just how much they were trying to run the football over the 3 days that I watched, and that's what really drove this out as much as anything else, because play after play after play after play, they were going to hammer it in inside, outside, wide zone, all around, and how you'd like to see it. And it was very cool to see. But they are establishing this kind of mentality, and you don't just establish this kind of mentality with the play calling. You don't just say, okay, we're going to run the ball a lot today, and that's going to make us tough, big, and bad. You do that in the days of training camp. You do that day after day after day. And whereas a lot of teams out there will be passing the ball around and trying to look all nice and snazzy with that, and you pass the ball around well enough too on the other side of it, you're going to establish this as your identity on this football team. Who are the Seattle Seahawks? What are they about? And they are back to trying to be a little bit of a bully ball mentality when they come at you on both sides of the ball. Stood out to me overall in the 3 days of practice. It's really good to see because that is the identity we hope that they were going to have as we got the adoption of Kubiak in here, and we knew McDonald was going to get a little bit more comfortable into year two. So very good practices, no real super major injuries outside of Cross's injury that we heard right as I was starting out last week, which we are going to get him back. We lost Finley, it sounds like, to a fairly major injury there in the preseason game. But nobody else is really out much. Kenneth Walker's got a sore foot, didn't see anything with him. Christian Haynes is an interesting situation because going out there to really look at him at right guard and see how he fit into the zone scheme, and then he didn't play any right guard. He played center. And first day, he's snapping balls over the head, snapping low, doesn't look comfortable doing it. Second day, I'm out of practice. He's just held out of practice the whole day, all day, every day on that, and not even out on the football field. Bryce Coots, Hawk Zone, noticed on day 3 at the scrimmage there that he did have a little bit of a brace, and then they spoke to there being a little bit of a sore pec thing. So we'll see how that does shake out. It does appear and look, though, that Anthony Bradford does have pretty securely there the right guard situation, I think, on lockdown. In fact, I would probably tell you guys that right now as it stands, I know the coaches aren't going to maybe say this, maybe the reporters aren't going to say this, and definitely this is subject to change with how these guys play in the preseason games. But it looks pretty solidly right now that you have Oluwatimi there at center as your starting center, and that Bradford will be most likely your starting right guard when we begin the year. With Sundell, he was being moved to just different positions other than center. Haynes is was almost at times the backup center. Sundell at right guard, Sundell at right tackle. I think they even had him maybe at left tackle at one point, filling in out there. So guys were kind of bouncing around as they were also kind of getting around the cross injury, because you have to have bodies for the game with no cross and bodies for practice with no cross to kind of take up his reps there with that. But it was telling to me that Sundell wasn't the guy that was in at center. He was kind of over at some other spots, and looks like this team's kind of finding a way to make sure they can, they like this guy. They want to get him on the roster, maybe potentially even want to get him on that starting lineup somehow or another because of his really nice athleticism. Gray Zabel looked good in there as well. He looked comfortable. He didn't look like a rookie in over his head. He looked like he was prepared for this situation. He landed some good blocks. He's pulling out in front, leading the way on a block 5-10 yards down the field on a particular run. So he was looking really solid to my eyes, what I could tell. It was hard at times on the line of scrimmage battles, especially down there at practice, to really ascertain a lot of what was going on, because it was a lot of just hat on hat, pile of bodies down in there. I mean, a lot of 12 personnel, one wide receiver, goal line looks right around midfield, and then just a pile of bodies going after it. Part of that physicality aspect I'm speaking to. So it wasn't always easy to identify what offensive lineman was doing what on every particular play, given that. But Bradford does look a little bit better. There are maybe some less amount of whiff percentages that you see in what he's doing. The whiff thing is still there. The reaching as a pass protector, still there. But it's not maybe awful, and he's good enough in those other areas of his game. He's got the athleticism that they want, that may be enough to overcome maybe some of the occasional whiff that you're going to get with Bradford. But he does seem to be pretty solidly there, right guard. Lucas looked all right out there. He did have some rough moments, some good moments out on that right tackle edge. So line looked okay. Good in pass protection. That was going to be a thing I was really going to be looking for, especially with what they were going to be going up against on that defensive line, and what you had as far as the challenges go there. And I thought that they acquainted themselves very well. It certainly helps with Kubiak's play calling during practices and scrimmage that he's willing to go to more of the short stuff and go to more of the intermediate stuff. He gives his quarterbacks answers for pressures, and that's nice to see versus last year where we didn't always have answers like a check down route. Those type of things. Those are kind of cool to see for the quarterbacks. It does help them out with the pressure. Fun too, listening to Mike McDonald yesterday talking in his interview to 710 about a little bit of the back and forth him and Kubiak are having at it. And, Kubiak's coming at him and he's like, why are you blitzing me so much? And he's like, why are you throwing so many checkdowns? And they had a little bit of going back and forth. And what's funny about that exchange is that watching on the first day of camp or first day of practice, I was there. They brought down at the line of scrimmage, McDonald did, I'm not kidding you, it was like 7 straight blitzes out of a stacked box. 1, 2, 3. And poor Kubiak's there, he's going, I can only imagine the play calling, like, really, Mike? You're going to run 7 times in a row? You really going to do that in the game? You can do that in the game, Mike? But Mike was in his bag, I will say that, especially in the first 2 days of practice. He dialed it back, I think, a little bit in the scrimmage and went to a little bit more of the 4-man nickel stuff. But he was getting after it at times when he wanted to dial it up. There is going to be more blitzing. There's going to be more activity this year on this defensive front than last year. Absolutely getting year 2 accommodation going with these players and them getting comfortable with this playbook really stood out. I didn't see blown coverages. I didn't see guys in the wrong spot. But I did see them willing to dial up a lot more pressure than I saw in last year's training camp. And maybe that was just in training camp. You knew you didn't have the pass protection to do it or the answers to do it. But he's going after it this year, and I think we're going to be a team that's a much more heavier blitzing team, which I love to see because I think that there's a lot of room to go from being the 22nd, 23rd most blitz-heavy team in the league to getting it into a little bit of a better place, even more so, even if it's just middle of the road, to keep teams honest on what they can expect you're going to get. But he was getting after it with them in practice on that. They had some really nice blitzes in there. Nick Emmanwori was looking really good coming off the edge. Tyrese Knight coming off the edge on a blitz from that side. Those guys looked very comfortable doing it. The quarterbacks handled it pretty well. I guess this is a good time to maybe shift over to the QBs and what I saw from them. First off, Sam is going to be dependable for this team. The naysayers are the people that are hoping for Jalen Milroe to rise up on this, or that Sam's hopefully maybe even are out there going, maybe Sam can fall on his face so we can get to this Milroe experience. That's not going to happen. Sam Darnold, through the 3 days of practice in the scrimmage, to me was the best quarterback of the bunch. He is comfortable for this job. He's not in over his head. He doesn't look like nervous Nelly Sam from the New York days. He's a guy that looks like he's been in this league for many years, who's got some nice natural talent, who understands this offense and is well suited to this offense as well, playing on time, playing in rhythm, getting the ball out in the right spot with good accuracy. All of these things were on display, and including the decision-making. Now, he will still have occasionally the decision-making where it goes into the tank on a play, and he'll try to maybe fit a ball he shouldn't or do something he is ill-advised to do. But he's steady enough, and he's good enough under what he was doing to me to say that this guy can get the job done in the way that we would be hopeful of him to carry this team if he's got a dominant defense and he's got a really great special teams unit. Can he replicate last season? Can he be a quarterback that's a top 10 in the sport? I can't speak to we don't know enough about it at that point on this. But as far as maybe the low end aspect of this, let's call this the floor of Sam Darnold this year based on what I'm seeing. I see a very comfortable quarterback that can execute this offense, that can put points up on the board. And that's it. I think what we were just at the bare minimum hoping he could at least get done. As many of you had many fears out there that he would revert back to the old Sam Darnold without O'Connell, without the best wide receiver in the sport to throw to, et cetera, et cetera. Drew Lock, arm strength looks really good, like a guy driving into his prime. The release is as smooth and quick as ever. The ball comes out with some pop. I will say that there's some times on the decision-making, especially when you need him to roll out, when you need him to move in space, where he can be a little bit unsure about what he's seeing down the football field. I think you can still kind of confuse him with stacked boxes and fronts at times. But there were some good throws mixed in there as well. And, he's got the hose, man. You can see that on the football field, that thing comes out, with a snappiness. And again, coming out really efficiently in the delivery and quick, right from the ear. And so he looks steady too. He looks like the backup at this point right now. I think that I won't say that there's really a chance. I think Milroe really pushes him on that backup because this is where we get to Milroe. And my eyes went to him a lot throughout the 3 days and really, really were trying to lock into him and really try to get a full good feel on, what I'm going to see. And it was fun too, being able to watch him and talk it a little bit with Bryce Kutz, who is a former quarterback, college quarterback, height. Yeah, I think we did the college thing. But he was going through a little bit of the mechanical stuff that Milroe needed to get through. And the mechanical stuff has not been cleaned up in full. That is, as we thought, a little bit completely overstated. It's improving. And that's the really nice thing here about Milroe and what I saw. I saw improvement. I'm seeing progress. I am seeing there are the things that are coming forward. There is a lot of reversion. There are still the things that will drive you crazy in the decision-making. He has on day 2 a moment where he takes a snap and he tries to do this little de facto jump pass at the goal line. Now, it works and you get a touchdown there, but I'm talking 1952, 5'3" quarterback. They don't know how to throw a football, jump pass. That kind of jump pass. And all 4 of us on the berm, it just in unison cringed when we saw it, Let's put that one away, Jalen. Let's not do that. Let's not leave our feet. Cleats in the ground, buddy. Cleats in the ground. Comes back a little bit later in practice there. Again, tries the jump pass. The ball sails on it over the top. Jamie Sharif playing the off-ball linebacker role there is able to pick the ball off and return it for a pick 6. So with Milroe, the decision-making there, a little bit, okay, buddy. A little uncertain at times. Really great with the ball action stuff. He's going to be the best quarterback on this roster by far. With being a bit of a magician and how he hides that ball in the read option game, it will make him all that much more deadly when you want to use him on those kitschy packages out of RPO. And you're sort of simplifying the game down. He's coming out for one of those rare snaps to just kind of come out and use his athleticism. The speed is legit. He's going to have that extra gear that other guys do not have on the football field. He's always going to be able to revert down to running the ball if he can't see it clearly. And I think in a lot of ways that you can help him out if you got to throw him on the field a little bit for some of those, inserted plays where you go, okay, you got to read 1, 2. If they're not there, you're running. If you've got no opportunity to run, you're already outside the pocket, just throw it away. That's all you're doing, buddy. We're not going to expand out of that here in your first year. We're going to keep you in those kind of simplified reads. And felt like there was a little bit of that to him. He dropped back. If he didn't see it clearly, just had him going, just use those legs and go. Don't be scared to do it. Let's go. It was not completely bad on the throws, and he did improve even over the 3 days as far as performance-wise, where I'd say, the roughest day was probably day 1, and 2 got a little bit better, and then by the scrimmage game, you're going, oh, okay, here we go. And I will say that you see with him also the arm strength and the ability to make those wow kind of throws, where he's going to get a little bit of extra velocity on it that other quarterbacks wouldn't. The throwing motion between Sam Darnold and Locke and Jalen. Jalen's got technically the fastest throwing motion. Drew Lock's got the smoothest throwing motion, but Jalen's got the eventual upside quickest motion with it just going right to his ear out and being able to come out with velocity. A lot of reasons those guys wind up and have to do that is to create the extra torque there to get a little bit more velocity on your ball. And Jalen doesn't have to do that, and it shows where he can flip his wrist and get that thing down the field far. It's going to be on a line. He's not a layer thrower. Another place we've got to see a little bit more improvement from him as we go with time is that not everything needs to come at that fastball trajectory. It's kind of the Colin Kaepernick style of throwing your deep balls, where everything's coming in on missile status. And sometimes you need to kind of Russell Wilson moonball it a little bit to give your receiver the right angle to go and make the catch. A little bit there. The wild throws were really cool, though. Him and Tyron Bowden have an really cool chemistry going on there. I mean, he's practically going to, bare minimum, put Bowden on the practice squad at this point. They hit a big play in practice on the day before the scrimmage on Friday, and then on Saturday, another big play down the field to Tyron Bowden as well with Milroe. Those guys have a really nice chemistry between the two of them, and some really nice passes that he hit there to Bowden, where it wasn't just easy throws for Milroe. He had to put it into a relatively it's not tiny window, but a smaller window, especially deep down the field. And it was good seeing him hit some of those throws. He had some others in the scrimmage as well, some other nice throws. And on the Friday, he hit a nice throw right up the middle of the field as well, where again, the ball just gets right on the receivers really quick, and you can feel the velocity coming out as it does. It's just the ball placement's still a little bit all over the place. You do then get, when it goes bad, it goes really bad on plays where you go, oof. When the footwork kind of checks out on a play, he ends up on his front foot. He ends up kind of bopping along on the front foot. There's the complete rhythm of the play is thrown off for him. He just kind of haphazardly will just kind of dish the ball out, and it'll end up in the dirt. And so there is that there too. So to me, walking away from the Milroe experience on this one, to me, was confirming a little bit of what I had suspected all the way around on the guy right now from my perspective of it. There's multiple interceptions from him over a couple of those days. Multiple interceptions. Not just the jump pass, but a couple of others. A couple of near picks interceptions where it should have been picked. He was doing 7-on-7, which is really a quarterback-friendly drill. You got no defensive lineman, no pass rush. It should be kind of hard to throw an interception in those moments, and he threw what should have been picked off. But the good is there too. And the improvement from where he was, coming even out of college last year is certainly there are some steps you can see taking flight forward. Now, they haven't come, light years ahead, but they are coming forward, and you can see where the long-term, long-range plan of this can be for this kid when all of this stuff does refined, when the mechanical meets the processing, and all of that stuff can take the step forward and go. But it's not there right now. We got to be patient with this kid on that development. It's going to get there, but I think we just got to let this thing, settle in just a little bit, and we'll get a bit of a better idea about where he'll be, I think, a little bit further down the line. Still can get some effectiveness out of him even right now with the read option game, with running some of those plays here and there. It's just that he's not ready to be the starter right now. It's not Russell Wilson 2.0. It's not. It's not in the same position. But he did look good. So don't let me push that away. Let's bounce over to the guy that I thought was the star of training camp from my perspective. And I joked about it in my title with the gold jacket Nick Emmanwori. But this is something that Corbin talked about when we did our crossover episode on Saturday and spoke about himself. He mentioned himself. He says, I think this guy's someday going to put on the gold jacket. And I think if anybody that's covered or watched Corbin for a long period of time knows that he's not a guy that speaks in that kind of hyperbole very often. And he's speaking about that. I can only imagine how Nick's looked prior in some of the other practices that Corbin's seen. But just in the practices I saw, he had, 2 interceptions. I think he had another near miss pick. He was a monster when you rushed him off the edge. He was active in the run game. He's chasing plays down. He looks fast on the football field. He looks just like a guy moving at a different speed that also has different length on the football field. And just the plays he made in the interception, the one he made on Milroe up the field, where I think Milroe was just trying to throw it away, and he steps up in front of the route. I mean, straight out of kind of like a Richard Sherman kind of play on a 9 route. And then you've got the one where he's able to tip the ball up to himself in the back of the end zone, back to his hands to go make the pick on that one, to be in the right place there where he makes the play happen. He's not just lucking into these plays. This kid is a monster. This kid looks like a beast. And it's going to be really fun to see how his fit goes in with this defense. You did get to see a little bit more about Witherspoon on the outside because of this, because there was a little bit of kicking then Emmanwori into sort of that slot positioning so he could operate out of that place. But then Witherspoon looked pretty good on the outside too. Had a near miss pick on the outside on one of the days, and then had an absolutely just fantastic pick on Marquez Valdes-Scantling on a fade route down in the end zone where he just bodies him up, doesn't let Scantling stack him, stays up in front of him, kind of almost runs it like a receiver where you'd pin the corner on your back, and then the ball's coming in. The receiver's got no pathway to the ball, and then just you can go make the play. And Witherspoon went and made it. He is looking as instinctive as ever, a little bit more, wizened along here in his career and what he's looking for and what he can kind of jump on and look comfortable out there on the outside, which I thought was very important. But Emmanwori is going to be legitimate. All the draft picks we got of this last draft coming out of this camp, this is a guy to me that's got as much chance right now to be the difference maker type of guy. And it was so cool to see him out there just doing what he was doing. I mean, so comfortable for a rookie. Just at the start of training camp, just in the beginning of padded practices, you're already going like that. How about that? I thought it was very, very impressive. Rick Woolen looked good as well out there, made a couple of plays in coverage. He looks solid, so he's coming along. He's looking smooth out there. Your secondary in general, Love, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant looks a little bit bigger. He's definitely, body-wise, I could tell this when I was sitting down by the field and watching him kind of walk around, but he definitely feels body-wise more like a safety now rather than a cornerback that's been moved to safety, if that makes sense. And where those cornerback bodies are just a little bit more leaner normally. Elijah Arroyo was fine. It sounds like the offense today won the day of practice, and Arroyo was really featured well and had a chance to really kind of shine a little bit more in today's practice. He made his catches at times. There was a couple drops in there. He did look relatively sudden for a guy his size, so stuff that just kind of matched up to what we thought from him on tape. He seems to be a very natural pass catcher of the ball. Doesn't have his hands fighting him. The drops that happened were just kind of, whatever plays early in camp. I wouldn't say it was him, just with a horrible drop. He's running this way. It's a little maybe tough angle on the pass, kind of in a little bit of a weird angle. So, yeah, everything's good there. Pumpkin didn't have me back for a week, so she's definitely a little needy mode right now. Okay, so I know you want to be up there, but you're going to have to be up there. Okay. Other cornerback, Demarion Williams had a pick 6. I think it was against Drew Lock. I know. Against Drew Lock on the first day I was there in practice in the back of the end zone. He made a great play to jump the route, got the pick 6, 99-yard pick 6. Had another one that was a close interception almost on the scrimmage game. I think it might have been against Darnold, a close call there as well in that one. So Demarion Williams is a kind of back-end corner guy for this roster to maybe take a look at, maybe to spot. And it's kind of interesting there, especially with we don't have yet Shaquille Griffin out on the field. Nehemiah Pritchett was okay. To my eyes, I don't think he either really super stood out or was really back. Cooper Kupp had him baked up on a 9 route on day 1 of practice that I was to. And Cooper Kupp, for whatever reason, dialed back the gear mid-shift. And Darnold threw it like he was still running it full, and it would have been a touchdown if Kupp kept running, but he just kind of, pulled it back a little bit, and that sort of saved Nehemiah Pritchett on that particular play. But secondary looks good. Defense looks good. Offense-wise, receivers, Cooper Kupp look good. He had more than a few plays he made out there where he looked like typical kind of a Cooper Kupp route, typical kind of Cooper Kupp catch. And a part that's going to stand out, I think, for him and something to kind of consider with Cooper Kupp and what you're getting with him that's a real benefit is a guy that is a really good blocker. They were running these kind of 2-man routes where you'd have a quarterback and you'd have the 2 men here. And I talked about this in the last show a little bit, but you have 2 cornerbacks, 2 receivers, and the quarterback. That's it. Then the receivers come down, they run a basically stop route sort of right next to each other. Quarterback has a decision to throw to one or the other, throws to one or the other. And then the point of the play is that the receiver who doesn't catch the ball is going to try to lay a block and also get his defender a little bit picked to where he doesn't have an angle to go make the tackle on the receiver after the catch. And they kind of wrap that up, boom, 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 over and over again. And just a cool little thing, but you could really feel on Cooper Kupp the difference of him getting into there as a blocker on those kind of plays and how good he is a blocker getting after it in that way, and how it's a little subtle thing that can make a real big difference on that. But he was good as a pass catcher. He looked quick, speedy. He didn't look like a guy that's been slowed down by injuries in his career. Looks like he's ready to come in here and help out and make kind of impact. JSN, he's ready to go. That's all I can say about that. A little bit of a scary thing on the Friday practice where he came down a little bit awkwardly on his leg. They had him on kind of a long leg sleeve then during the scrimmage, but throughout all 3 days of practice I saw, he was making plays. He was making plays down the field. He had a great corner route, which he's just money on, that Sam Darnold hit perfectly in time on day one. Nice 20-yard out, just little corner right there, and he put it in the right spot, did Sam right on time, and he looks good, does JSN. He looks ready to roll. So no worries there with JSN. The receiver who is ascending and really coming forward right now and really impressing me in a big major way, and you guys are going to love to hear this. Tory Horton. Tory Horton is, to me right now, secured as in the process of securing wide receiver number 4. Now, it's not to say that Bobo's not going to make this roster or Bobo's not going to find his way in the field at times. It's to say that Tory Horton is just that good. He is quick off of the line of scrimmage. He is sudden. He's got ability to laterally kind of change direction a little bit that can throw cornerbacks off throughout the route. He's got really good hands and really good ball tracking. I'm sure many of you have seen the big highlight, and I got to see in person there, right near the berm of where I was at, where he's running the 9 route down the field. The quarterback throws it back. He jumps up in the air, hovers in air like Jordan, just floating like this, reaches back for the ball, pulls it off the back of the cornerback, and then gets his 2 feet down for a touchdown. Just an amazing play. He had another one like that in the scrimmage game where it was almost got the feet down, just the quarterback put the ball too far out of bounds to have the opportunity for him to make the catch. But he was making a lot of other catches throughout practice. It was one of those every 10 plays, you felt like Horton was about to go get a catch. Getting open, making the play, making the contested catches. The stuff we saw with him out there at college, you saw from him on the field. And as a punt returner, watching all the rest of the guys we got, he looks like the guy that's most comfortable. He's just, it's effortless catching the ball back there. Again, that suddenness and that ability to reel it in quick, turn into a runner right after you get it in and get upfield and have a good feel for where to be going with the ball as a punt returner. I think there's just a night and day difference between him and everybody else. And I have to feel like the team's going to feel like there's a benefit here to putting him out there and having him do that job, because maybe now you don't have to hold one extra roster spot just to have your punt returner like Jalen Durden last year or D. Williams last year. Now he is your 4th or 5th wide receiver, and so you can kind of save the roster spot and go somewhere else with it. But Tory was really impressive throughout all 3 days. A guy just every day did something that made you go, oh. And I'm not just trying to pinpoint on the rookies here. It's just that they look pretty good on what they were doing, these guys. And again, stuff that we'd kind of hoped about coming into camp, but confirmed now. So don't be surprised if Horton, by the end of the year, I'm maybe stealing this a little bit from Bryce on this, but I feel like by the end of the year, this guy could potentially even end up taking away snaps from a guy like Scandling. Scandling didn't look bad either. He made a real nice catch with Devin Witherspoon on him at one point in the first day of practice where he reached back for the ball and Witherspoon was right there in coverage. But it just speaks more to Horton and just he seems to have a little bit of that little, there's something a little bit different about Tory, I guess. Just kind of the feel I have. And he's 100% healthy. 100%. Walker was out for all of my days, really. So we'll see what's going on with him with his sore foot. Charbonnet looked quick. He looks a little bit leaner than last year, I would say. And if I had to guess, 7-8 pounds less, maybe something in that territory. But he was running hard. He was quick with the rock. He looks like a nice fit into this offense. Running the ball was a little bit of a mixed bag throughout, I think, all 3 days of practice. There, to me, was a little bit of nothing there on day one where defense just completely won the day. Day 2, offense brought a little bit back. Defense still won the day, but barely. Day 3, it was back and forth. Defense barely won the day. That's how I would kind of identify it. But day 1, you didn't run the ball at all. Day 2, I was there. It was boom or bust. Day 3, it was boom or bust. So it felt like you're either getting like no yards, penetration in the backfield, dead play instantaneously, or it was like a 20, 25, 30-yard gain. And it's hard to tell because there's that whole touching stop, touch and stop thing that goes on with how they do the tackling where they're not taking guys to the ground. So would the guy have gotten through in real life? Would he have actually been brought to the ground? I think just the times you just really felt this defensive line and how good they are at being stifling in the run game. And I will say that the defense impressed me on the wide zone stuff, where you worry a little bit with wide zone on your defenders maintaining the gap integrity. And I felt like they did over and over again do a really good job of that. Now, when you lost it, that's probably when you had these big play moments at that time. And it was like, ooh, that shows you where maybe there is still that vulnerability in this defense at times, to where you can have a big play being given up because it just takes one guy to blow his gap integrity, and that's all she wrote. So it was good for the most part, stopping the run. The offense had some moments, though, which is cool on running the ball as well, and it's coming along there, and there's definitely going to be a commitment to it. Do not doubt that. This team is going to be committed to running the ball. You can see it there in practice, and it stood out in a major way. Major way there with that. The other running backs were fine. Holani, the other kid we had in there, they were good. They were fine. But I think there's a difference now when you go from Walker and Charbonnet to where you get down to Holani. Damian Martinez had some good moments. Really good in pass protection drills. You can see that he's going to be maybe a comfortable guy to slide into that third down back roll. But, had some moments too where he lost his feet and whatnot. But he looked good. And with him, I think you're really going to feel him in preseason games where you start to get to feel his full physicality. Guys having to actually bring him to the ground and not just two-hand touch him in the plays kind of dead, so to speak. So he looked fine though as well. He looks pretty quick on that for a guy being a bigger back. He doesn't look as quite as a big a back. Maybe it's the 22 number, but he just doesn't look as quite as big a back as he kind of looked out there at Miami. I don't know what to make of that, but he definitely runs hard, and really cool to see him in pass protection because he could be stonewalling at times in some of his reps out there when he was doing that. So that was pretty much mainly well, when we'll get into some general chat, you guys will probably remind me of a couple of guys that I haven't spoken about here. There are you can speak about some random stuff. Ernest Jones out there on the field, running full, not restricted in the least. Tyrese Knight looked fine out there with him on that. So those guys look good. Didn't see a lot of either Derek Hall or Boye Mafe as far as impact on the field throughout the couple days. And so they weren't bad necessarily, just wasn't a big point of, them really jumping out. Byron Murphy got a little bit of some 3-tech in the practices I saw. There is some of Byron Murphy at the nose tackle role right now. Is that Hannikin's out? Who knows on that a little bit. I will say it was nice to see Peely. Don't sleep on Peely. Peely is a really energetic nose tackle in there who was making plays all throughout 3 days of practice to my eyes. Rolled his ankle, I think, on day 2, still came back in the practice and made a really nice play in the run game. And he also looks like a guy who may be able to get on this roster and make a little bit of noise for what he brings too. So that was encouraging. That maybe can free up Byron just a little bit more to be able to do what he does. Did speak about it on the first day of camp. DeMarcus Lawrence flashes every time he's on the field. We might have got ourselves a real steal in this guy, especially if he can stay healthy, because he's just such a problem off the edge for offensive linemen. Could not be blocked on the first day of camp that I watched, the first day of practice. Could not be blocked. Didn't matter who was out there. They just couldn't handle him. And he was destroying the running game in day 1. Part of why the running game got nowhere had to do with DeMarcus Lawrence putting in work. Heavy work. So Lawrence is the real deal as well. He looked good out there. Really cool to see him getting it done as that other edge out there. Noah Uchenna on the scrimmage. I was down there next to that bench where we had Uchenna Nwosu, we had Riley Mills, and Shamar John Charles. The 3 guys that are injured right now for your Seattle Seahawks, 2 of those guys, Mills coming off major ACL injury, and then Uchenna coming off of his injury from last year. All of them had kind of bands on their knees. So I don't know what to really make of that as far as the takeaway with that, as far as, are they close now? Because they're just doing like small muscle exercises, and every once in a while, you could see them doing the Suzanne Summers, thigh exercise move. The thigh master move. They're basically doing the inverse of that. And so they looked, Riley Mills looks really big. He's a big man. He's definitely putting the time into the weight room. And Uchenna looked good. Overall, moving well. I didn't see like a lot of limping or favoring, but don't know we can take much away of, obviously, from them on that. And hopefully they can get back quicker, sooner than later. Just really cool on the last note, too, with the defense, to speak to just a little bit of the chemistry that I saw down there, because that was the bench side that I was on. And those guys are really hyper communicating. You can feel they're communicating about what's going on in the field. They're fine tuning the details. They're connected to the process. You just don't feel like you got guys over here on this corner just off there looking up at the sky, guys over here just chewing on sunflower seeds, not really thinking about much anything, but guys are really actively communicating right after they come off the field about what they saw, about what they intend to do here, how you're going to do this. I'm going to do it this way on this. And it was really cool to see that these guys all seem to really get along, but all seem to really have really good active communication going on. Thing you'd want to have, thing we'd all want to see out there. I don't think in all teams, if you really always got that or not. Part of, I think, a little bit of the little peaks that we get into the potential of this team having that full spirit of buy-in that's happening. Because if you don't have buy-in, I don't think you're going to get these kind of active communications on the sideline in a scrimmage right after you've had these plays, run over there on the side. But it seems like it's a productive camp. We've got McIntosh down with an injury. We're getting back Cross, but we've been pretty good on the injury front of things. It seems like everything's moving along steadily here. And as we drive now to this Raider game on Thursday, and then, hopefully just kind of keep building on what they're trying to kind of put down as a foundation right now. But last thought is just, everything you guys kind of want to see on this team right now from them coming into this, and the best designs or the best possibility of what this team could be. If all of the things can work right that you think could go together, a defense can become dominant. You can find a ground game that doesn't require the quarterback to carry the day at every turn. And you've got a great special teams. We'll see about Myers, who did have some issues with kicking on the first day pretty badly. But you're hoping that's this vision. This is the vision that takes flight. This is the vision that seems most likely for a team that could potentially become a contender or a division contender, is that those are the three elements that go together. And those are the three elements I think you did feel at play here throughout practice. So they're not only telling you it, they're also driving towards it. And Mike McDonald's defense, year two, going to be a long day at the office for a lot of offenses. I'll tell you that. Good effing luck. There's time. Ernest Jones up and standing in the A gap over the nose tackle. Then they've got DeMarcus Lawrence over here in a spinner roll up over the guard. Then they've got their edges widened the hell out. Another couple defensive tackles widened on out. Then they're peeling two out. It's going to be a long day at the office for quarterbacks and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. The stack boxes and those simulated pressures. McDonald's done the spinal lap to 11 this year. If we were down at like 7 last year, at least what he's doing in practice. Maybe he's just going crazy in practice, but he was in his bag. Let's see where you guys are at. See where your guys' heads at. I'm sure we'll have some updates here through the chat too today on some of what people were seeing at practice today. I didn't have a chance just prepping for the show and getting some of the last notes that I wanted to speak to, put together, so I haven't had a chance to see what happened on with practice today. We'll probably go live with the part of the Daily Show stuff tomorrow a little bit and cover a little bit what's going on here at practice. With that, I've got a couple of sound bites too that I want to go over tomorrow as well, with a couple of interviews from Seahawks players that I think is some interesting information. But I hope everyone's had a good last week. Appreciate all the folks, a couple people from the stream and whatnot. So appreciate you guys reaching on out. Was able to hang with a couple folks, but I hope everyone's doing well. Sam says the Royals looking good today. That's good. And he didn't look bad for me, Sam. He was just, he was just solid in there on the days I was there. I didn't see him make any kind of wondrous plays, but it was solid. Pass pro's doing well, Misfit. Big part of it, though, has to do with the play calling, and I think some of the sequence of the calling that Kubiak's doing. When you're that dedicated to run the ball, defense has got to keep their eyes on the run the rock. They got to make sure that first you're not running the ball. We can't just pin their ears back. And then when you are passing, sometimes it's off that play action game, and sometimes it's off the rollouts, and sometimes it's off the moving of the pockets. So Kubiak's already showing things that he's doing that's going to help to mitigate what may be some issues there in pass protection. And it was effective in how it helped, and especially embracing some of the shorter passing attack to just get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Nitro, I know it's just camp, but the players we drafted who I were feeling more skeptical about have seemed to be doing pretty well in training camp. Yeah, I would agree with that. My skepticism ones would have probably been, for me, a little bit of a Milroe or Arroyo, and I think that they've looked nothing but encouraging. Especially with Milroe, it's the plan. You understand the plan that's here, which is it's going to be a 2-year situation for the guy. He's going to get some time to play. He's going to get his feet wet throughout that. But before you actually try to throw something behind his shoulders and say, no, you're going to be the guy to carry it. You're going to carry the C on your chest. Before you get to that spot of it, you give him a couple years to kind of get it figured out, hone all the stuff out. The flashes are there. The potential and the ceiling are there. It's just about giving it time. But very impressive. Very impressive by what we saw from the rookies. Misfit Pass Pro, to be or not to be? That is the question. Ben, thank you for the $2 donation, Ben. Sorry, a little late on acknowledging. I get on my long rant, Ben. You know how it is. He said, let's go, Hawks. Let's get ready to rumble. Are you ready to rumble? Let's go. Let's go. It's good to see you.
I'll get neutralized.
Raiders are about to get it on Thursday. They're about to get the machine. They're about to go through the mangler, the McDonald mangler. It's like the Fargo wood chipper, but worse. What's up, though, Ben? Thank you for the $2 donation, man. Love to see that excitement, and we almost got real live football coming up here. Just a couple of days. I'll be doing the play-by-play here throughout the eve. If you want to check out, be coming on down. It's good to see you, though, Ben. Seth says, I've also heard nothing but great things about D-Law this whole offseason. Dude's a beast. He is a beast. You know, there's the two sides of it when you get a guy like that, which is that there's the skeptics out there, Seth, that will say with Law, oh, Cowboys are just pushing him out like they do when they're done with players, and they know it. Be it a Tyrion Smith or the Jalen Smith, Tyron Smith, I think. Jalen Smith, their inside linebacker, when they let him go. You know, when they move on, they tend to hold guys too long, so you know he's basically spent, he's shot, he's cooked. Then the other side of it being that, hey, former first-round talent. And, you know, when he has been healthy, he has still been a very close to dominant football player all around, as both in how he defends the run and how he rushes the passer. Just a question on the health thing a little bit. And you feel like you maybe have a plan for that, being that you're going to mitigate his snap count and get him on a rotational basis. And he can be healthier and fresher than because of it. But he is a monster out there. Nitro, I'm sure Jerry Jones is trying to drag the Parsons thing out as long as possible, but it feels a bit different from the Day and the Dak and CD situation. Great point, Nitro. Your thoughts on this are my thoughts on this. And maybe it's just a little bit of I didn't really want Dak. I didn't really think we'd have a chance at CD, so maybe it's a part of the want of Micah that's driving my reasoning with this as well. But Jerry just went so hard in the paint with some of his comments towards Micah on this. And the fact that you've waited so long on this to negotiate the deal when Micah was, whether you want to pay him it or not, here in Seattle, Micah's deserving of that contract after 3 years, not waiting 4 years. And this is Jerry, playing these games. And when you play games like this as an owner, maybe you get away with it. Maybe every time you find a way at the end to just kind of, dip around it. And indeed, when it's come down to it with Dak or with CD, Cowboys end up paying up. So that's the price I guess they're going to pay for this from Jerry's standpoint, is that I'm going to mouth off and I'm going to basically piss my player off, and then I'll pay the full price. I come back to Nitro. Why saying, I know I get eyeballs on us. I want us to be seen. I want people to know Cowboys are still here. We're here. Maybe it's that we haven't 3 decades, no Super Bowl. Got to remind them we're here. This is how we remind them. Not by winning, Jerry? No, that's too hard. You remind them by contract negotiations. Gets all the eyeballs in there. I'm not sure. But, Micah came back at him pretty hard on requesting that trade. We have seen with Myles Garrett that this has happened, and the guy pulls it right back. Cowboys have had this happen with multiple players who pull it right back and ended up signing. So I still think a deal does end up getting done with Micah, but you're getting down into a countdown phase of this from Jerry Jones's perspective on the sheer inevitability of this deal that will certainly happen. Really does get more called into question the more further and further out that you draw this along, unless we just are going to reach the conclusion on this that the Cowboys have already accepted, where they're going to drop their pants and give him whatever he wants. And that's what he's really driving towards this is, I'm going to piss him off so bad, we got to overpay him now to keep him. That's my brilliant process. Really, Jerry? Addicted. I thought Arcadia Wright made a couple of great runs. He did. He had a couple of solid runs. He's got a little bit of some hesitancy with his vision at times with me within the system that wants you to get a little bit more with the downhill faster thing. But he didn't look bad. Yeah, Pumpkin doing her best Jaws impression. Let's get Pumpkin into the mix here. Let's get her on camera. A couple other donos in here. Martin Lawrence, thank you for the $5 donation, Martin. He says, year 2 with this head coach. A lot of the same vet players are back. They know what Mike Macdonald expects from players, so they'll let the new guys know how things work. Yeah, when you're able to return this many starters on one side of the ball, not just this many starters, Martin, of course, but extra guys on top of that are coming back in with a Uchenna, with a Jaron Reed, with a Hankins. You're getting all of these returning guys. They know the program back and forth. They know what you're trying to do. And not only are you returning all these guys, Martin, but so many of these guys, I can say without a blink of the eye, are absolutely bought in every way that you want a guy to be bought in. From the work ethic, from the leadership angle of it, from the performance of play on the field by how they go out there and do their job. Julian Love, Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, Jaron Reed. I've got a variety of guys I can speak to on that defense. You can include Hankins. You can include Lawrence, I think, into that mix of things on this. A Devin Witherspoon, whose voice grows with time, in on this. When you have that many guys that are all saying the same message, that are all your impact players, that are all in unison speaking to those young guys, there's nowhere for those young guys to go but to fall in line, but to buy in with that same kind of attitude. And thus with it, when you get veterans like that who can take that on, Martin, to your point on that, this is now how you rise a rookie crop that much faster to actually get productivity out of them, as opposed to having to wait a year to get that. Thank you, though, Martin. I appreciate the donation. Phoebe Moore Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, funny, we thought Emmanwori had a little work ethic. Well, I mean, that was not, at least I didn't hear too much, and thank you for the dono, man. I appreciate it. I didn't hear too much about a lack of work ethic with him. It was more about the buy-in, which was really just a small question, which it came out of that quote from the guy, the Packer journalist that runs the anonymous quotes every year from the scouts and whatnot. So, take it with a grain of salt on who said it and whether or not really there was anything to it. But it was just that it was the quote of if he buys into it, if he buys into what you're telling him, if you got him bought into your process, then he'll go out there and he'll go save the world for you. And if he doesn't, and if you have him a little bit more in a position of being like, I'm not feeling it, then he's going to go out there and burn the world down. And then, if you're not, and I think having a guy that's as smart as Mike Macdonald on this, probably helps out quite a bit to making that happen. Bear with me 1 second, please. You guys can for me, hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Seth says, I'm really liking the hiring of Kubiak and Benton. Yes, me as well. Me as definitely well. Those guys working together, and we just, confirmation too back to the having an offensive line coach that's a legitimate one, and what's not legitimate, what is legitimate, you get some debate there, but I think that he's looked at as one of those guys. And with Kubiak being also a coordinator that's done it in this league before, been successful in this league before, and the combination of those two factors really is what can help this thing be aided to move along that much faster. Understanding, again, the offense does not have to be dominant. It's just got to be consistent. It's got to control the clock. It's got to run the ball. And it's got to, find your points throughout the game. You don't have to bury 30 on the scoreboard every week, but find the 24, find the 25 points. Make it happen every week, consistently. Young says, I love what I've been hearing about Horton. Looking forward to follow his progression throughout the season. Me too. He's smooth, comfortable. What we thought with him coming in again, and we had all talked about this so much about what he was hopefully in his best version. And what you're seeing out there right now with Tory Horton, in my opinion, is the best version of Horton. He's absolutely 100% healthy. He is bringing the skills into play that we thought he had coming from college, including the punt returning, which can't be undersold. I went to camp last year. I watched 3 separate guys try to catch punt returns. All of them were muffing it. All of them were dropping it. It was brutal. And I could tell right then and there, and I said to it at the time in the stream, I think punt returning is going to be a problem this year. Well, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be a problem with Horton back there. He's comfortable doing it. He can track the ball in the air. He catches the ball in the right place. He's not reaching for it. But then just as a raw runner, he's a complete kind of receiver. He gives you a little bit of everything in his game. And you should be hyped about it, man. He looks legitimate. And that one catch he made where he leaps and then he's just floating and he picks the ball off the back of the defender and then gets the 2 feet down. You go, oh my goodness. Catalyst says, one play at practice where Kubiak ran a play action flood concept with Milroe and he just misses the guy in the intermediate. It'll take some time. Have some patience. Bingo. I mean, those are the plays that come back to, and it's what'll happen, Catalyst, and we're going to happen in the preseason. I can kind of see it already going down, is the wow throws will really bring people out of their chair. And they'll go, well, the wow throw is retrospective, is an example of the fact he's ready now. And he's good. He's good to go, really. It's like, no, but I think I heard somebody else say earlier this offseason, quarterbacking is not always the plays you're making that are the wow throws down. It's the boring stuff you're doing in between the wow throws as much as anything else. And that's where that's the part he's got to get a little bit more locked in. The intermediate, the short throws, not doing the jump passes. I really don't want to see any more of those. That was dicey. Brian makes a good point. Benton may end up being the most impactful addition this offseason. Very happy. Great point on that part. Orthodox Russ Horton out there, not just taking over the number 3 spot, but making a case to be the number 2. Ooh, bold statement there, Russ. I love it, man. Let's go. Let's go. AI, Milroe might be the best runner on the team. Go watch the LSU game highlights. 4 touchdowns. Make him look bad. Yeah, and what happens here, and this is a little bit of why Hurts gets a little bit of some of the benefit of this too. Cover 2 shell comes into place, AI. Cover 2 shell still has a high propensity of dropping into a cover 2 post drop. Maybe even upwards of 40 to 50% of the time still, depends on the team. And so you get the cover 2 drop, you have the lighter box, and then now you're not able necessarily to have a spy on the quarterback as much. You're trying to get into your, defeating some of the route concepts up there, and that's going to take multiple guys kind of daisy chained together in coverage to take those away. And the second you do that, now you're opening the door for the quarterback to be able to go and really go run the ball. And he's doing it, AI, and you can feel the impact of that with his speed and with that just explosiveness he has. Not to mention, he's kind of a bigger kind of built guy. He's solidly built from that position. He's not Jaden Daniels. And so he can have a hit, knock him, and still kind of glance off of it, keep his feet, and keep going. But he's going to be an effective runner out there for us, AI. Even if they're just limiting this year, which I don't think they will, but even if they just limit him to RPO concepts out of shotgun, I think that he could do it. He'll do under center stuff and all that too, but he could be effective with just a kind of the simplified Cam Newton kind of game plan. You could do that, I feel like, a little bit with Milroe in just the varied moments you didn't have Darnold out there. So the 6 to 7% of the offensive snaps, you just put him out there on these kind of select kind of plays. I could see how it could be effective. Seth, Benton is a hard ass on this offensive line. I'm loving it. He was teaching everybody. He was instructing everybody. He was right there in their face. You could see him and just going bit by bit with everybody on any kind of post-snap thing he didn't see. He was not shy about getting after him and letting him know. Catalyst, Mike Terrell looks a lot more comfortable over at left tackle. Didn't look completely bad at right tackle. Had some moments last year, but he does look solid over there at left tackle, filling in for Cross. I don't remember a lot of the pressure problems really coming off the left side as much as it was a little bit more of right side based when you were feeling that being a problem. Martin says there's no point in getting on Milroe's back in year 1. He's a third quarterback, so he'll always be taken as a project. Likely be 2 years before we'll know if we're really a starter. Yes, sir. Beautifully put, Martin. I can't add anything more than that. That's where I'm at with it too, man. Give him his 2 years. Let this thing fully develop. And then you might have yourself one hell of a football player on the other side. Imagine the possibility, folks, for those that are pushed maybe, and I'm not getting as much push for this right now, Martin, from folks in the chat to this degree, but as maybe I'd expected at this point, as I think people are being pretty patient about it. But just think about the potential of having a guy that can turn himself, with an Aaron Rodgers-like turnaround in his delivery coming out of Cal, if you give him that time. If that's the upside that is there, if you can hold yourself long enough to give him the time to get there, give him that couple year period. That's the potential upside you have as a guy. I think cumulatively, they're not the same kind of players, right? But if you could get a guy that could develop his throwing motion that same way, especially considering he's much more of a runner than Rodgers was, and like Rodgers was immobile, that's the upside we're talking about in executing that patience. That is what you have there down the road. If you can just wait, if you can just put it on layaway. Just throw that 5 away every month. Throw that 5 away every month. And then we get 2 years down the line and you got yourself a sweet leather jacket. Yeah. Seth, Milroe is going to be in so many packages similar to Kubiak used Taysom Hill with the Saints. A little bit. They were asked a little bit earlier this year, Seth, about the potential of using him in Taysom Hill role. And they did kind of poo-poo that a little bit in the press conference, saying it's not going to be Taysom Hill. It'll be more of a purified quarterback role, because Hill was, as much as anything at the end there last year with Kubiak, he was really being put in at times as much as anywhere at the fullback position. And I don't think that the intention is going to be to use Milroe at the fullback this year. And yeah, Milroe probably won't be doing the receiver plays that Hill. Good point, Brian. That as well. King says, I know Milroe is still far from being the guy, but how much better, worse do you feel about him compared to when he was drafted? It's a complicated one. If I'm changed off the spot, it would be very moderate, King, because the thing about the deal with me, and even when he was drafted, I said, I'm not going to really know until 2 years down the line whether it clicks or not. And what I keep coming back to and where I'm pretty still solidly on the ground of is that I like seeing the improvement from him in practice. I'm hopeful this comes along. You're going to get productivity, I think, out of him, even when he's not the guy, his quarterback. But at the same point in time, I don't have a baseline for guys really fixing the things that need to be fixed with him. And the mechanical stuff that was still there in college is still there on the football field, showing up very often. Is it going to get fixed in time? I'm hopeful, but I don't know. It really is a lotto ticket as he was compared to coming out. And the lotto ticket doesn't come, you don't get the results of it basically, 3 months into the OTAs on it. You're going to get the results really 2 years down the line on this to know for sure. The good throws are great, but I have great, nice, deep throws that he's got on college too there, King, over 2 years. Those things are a part of it. The running of the ball, I've got that on college too. I know he can do that. That boring stuff, that play-by-play stuff, can he execute on time? Can he process? The processing issues I spoke to that I've said many times over, the two elements for a quarterback I start with are arm strength and processing. Those are the two things that I want to see from a college quarterback, because those are the two things, King, I don't have as much confidence in that you can develop as a pro. I think your arm strength is basically where it's at coming out of college. I think your processing can improve, but you've got to have some natural processor that you've already showed on the field in college to make me believe it's going to improve as you get to a pro. If I've got a guy in the football field that just can't see it at the college level, he's not going to really see it any better as a pro, even if you give him the 2 to 3 to 4 years. And that's, with Milroe, that's really where my misgiving has come into play with him, is I just don't have as much of a guy to go off of and base off of. So if there's a guy that can do it, I've said he's the guy that can do it. I think his work ethic is on point. I think he's putting it in and doing what he can right now. But it really still just kind of remains a bit of a coin flip, lotto ticket kind of situation. So I guess moderately, King, but there was the bad there too, as much as there was the good. There was multiple interceptions. There was multiple close call interceptions. There's the one that was 7-on-7 that should have been picked. Quarterbacks shouldn't be really throwing interceptions on 7-on-7 unless you're throwing like a 9 route down the alleyway and it's tight coverage and the corner just goes up and makes a better play than the receiver. But this was like he was throwing it over the middle of the field and it was as brutal a throw as you could imagine. The brutal moments will be just as bad as those. And that's what I worry about him even in the long term, King, is that he can give you the whoa, but then it comes back 2 plays later and you go, no. Yeah. Yeah, Seth, they'll do him in like when Taysom's a quarterback, they'll do that for sure. He just shot down. I think I might even have the clip here. Yeah, I got the clip here. Why not? So this is just the reason why we're kind of caught Seth on the, this is why I was caught up a little bit on the hell? What do you mean not found? Of course, it's not going to let me play. There you go.
I don't think it's fair to say Taysom Hill. I mean, Taysom's such a great player, and the way they used him was more of like a tight end fullback hybrid role with sometimes taking snaps. Jalen's a quarterback through and through. He's going to be trained to play quarterback for us, and when he's in there, he's going to be playing quarterback. So, but the athleticism is going to come to life, when he's on the field, and that's how he's going to help us.
So it doesn't look like Taysom-ish, but as a quarterback, like they did with Taysom and running some of that kitschy stuff. They did have Mal too at the times where he'd be out there quarterback, and one time they had Drew Lock lined out at wide receiver. And yeah, Space K9 and Milroe basically have about the same 40. King Bomber says people are crapping on our receivers, but they don't know. We just found our next 5th round gem. Preach, man, preach. I'm a Horton believer. Ryan White says Matt Stafford's now seeing a back specialist. How he specializes in surgery. Ooh, yeah. A little freaky right now if you're a Rams fan and holding your breath a little bit is, I think that's the second specialist that he's gone to, Ryan, which when you're getting the second opinion, it's never a good thing. And it seems like with Matt Stafford's soreness in his back, they don't have any current real answer right now at the forefront as to what they're going to do about it. He's still not practicing, and we'll just have to kind of keep tracking and monitor, but that's as important a player on any of the NFC West rosters as you will find this upcoming year for the Rams. Losing him sinks all hope for them. And if you go under the surgery knife, it feels like with backs, I don't do those. They really do those things. I guess you can do them as 4 to 6 weekers, but they feel more like 3-month timetable things, don't they? Or all season. And yeah, Catalyst, Horton can play the X. He's not a big guy, but his release package off the line of scrimmage gets him clear of contact quite often, especially his lateral change of direction. He can give you a little bit of the little, bump, 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 and, little shoulder, kind of frees the cornerback a little bit. King Bomber says, set it day 1, avoid receiver till day 3. You're going to get the guy that nobody wants who's going to be great. Now, I love it, man. You predicted it, and you landed on that one. You were looking mighty right today. Martin says, I heard that Emmanwori has a real mean streak on a show at training camp. Did you see that, Brandon? No, not really. He was out there more just making plays and coverage, good as a blitzer. He was in on a couple of run stops. But I didn't see that necessarily. Demonwari. I like that. I think we might have his nickname, Dogzilla. Demonwari. That sounds hella tough. I like that. Randall McDaniel in the house. What you doing, Randall? It's good to see you, brother. Thank you for the $5. Just from the eye test, how is the squad versus last year? How does Sammy D look versus Gino? Does Darnold look the part? Sure seems like it's Randy. Sam Darnold is legitimate. Sam Darnold is going to give us a floor of play that is competent, that is going to be consistent. It's not going to be perfect. Whether he can be, Randall, a top 10 type of quarterback, whether he can get into the Vikings year last year, we'll see with that. But I think that he looked really prepared. He was not confused by what he was seeing. He was, of the 3 quarterbacks, the guy that was by far seeing things clearly and more. He was the most decisive of the group. He had a plan and understood what he was going to try to do play in and play out by what he was seeing pre-snap. Compared to Geno from last year, it's a little bit difficult on certain comparison points between the two of them, Randall, because with Geno, so much of what the Seahawks were doing at training camp last year was like every fourth play was a shot play down the field somehow or another. And Geno would execute a lot of them, but it wasn't as much of trying to execute that short intermediate passing attack that they were, Seattle was. So they were kind of running two just different styles of offenses. I will say the other tough part with this too is that there was so much of running the ball. I mean, 2 of the days of practice, it almost felt like at times it was like every 3 plays, you're going to run the ball twice. And so there were, with them really rotating out a good number of quarterbacks through that time period too, Randall, is Jalen was getting a lot of run, Locke was getting a lot of run. It wasn't like Darnold's running 90% of the snaps and the other guy's got to carve up the next 10%. So they really kind of did take down the number of attempts too for Sammy versus what Geno was throwing last year, which we were a little past happy last year in training camp. Shocker. But he's competent, man. I think that he looks like a guy that can certainly make this offense go. And he's got the arm talent. He made some really nice throws in there. This out route to JSN on the first day. He had a 9 route to Cooper Kupp that was right on point. Cooper just got to run that thing out. But he looked good. But they're just running 2 styles of offenses, so it's a little bit, certainly tough. The thing that does stand out with Randall is the rhythm-based nature of what Sammy does, which he's even more rhythm-based, I think, than Geno is. Geno could do that stuff and do it competently, but I think it's really Sam's bread and butter, which is you script me up the right play. I'm going to have a good pre-snap understanding about what I'm seeing and where I want to go. And when I hit that foot, the ball's going to be out. Or if I've got to take that one little hitch and then throw, I'm going to do it perfectly, right on time, and the ball's going to be out at right the exact moment in time it should be out. And so he's going to be in the right place with the ball at the right time usually. Ball placement is not super precise exact. I think Geno's maybe a little bit more of an exact thrower like that, but he gets in the right spot by and large. So I think he's going to be fine, Randall. I think we're going to be perfectly happy with this signing in retrospect of things. And as I've said many times over, I don't think we're going to see and come to find that there's some big gulf of a difference between Geno and Sam. Much more alike than they are different. Much more alike. As far as the eye test goes with the squad this year versus last year, I feel like there was a little bit more intensity this year. Maybe it's just the run-heavy nature of practices, but I just feel like there's a little bit more of getting after it physicality that I'm getting a sense of this year. Whereas last year, it felt a little bit more with the passing, the pass-happy nature of things and dropping back so very often and taking shots down the field. Felt a little more like an air raid offense last year, and I think with that, you felt a little more finesse last year. This feels a little bit more like Jean-Claude Van Damme Ironheart. You're glassing up the hands, you're putting on the wrap and then you're dipping it in broken glass, and you're going out into practice every day. Kind of feels a little bit like that to me, Randall. So I just think the intensity's up, and I think that the defense is way more comfortable with Mike McDonald's defense. They understand this scheme. They know what they need to do. They're running so many more games, and the blitzes and the stack boxes all turned up across the board through all 3 days of camp. The scrimmage was a little bit lighter, and I think he was doing that on purpose to let Clint really kind of just run what he wanted to run on the day and not get overwhelmed by the pressure packages that McDonald was running. But looks good, Randall. Looks good. And you're right. Darnold looks the part. I think he's ready to roll. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thomas Cox in the house. Good to see you, Thomas. Thank you for the $5. The draft class seems very good. NFC West should be scared. Indeed, it does. Let's remember you came out with all of those draft picks into that draft to go and make some major damage. Not on a team that was bad, not on a team that was looking at the back end of this division coming up, but a team that was pushing for a division title last year, a team that's had a winning season in 3 straight years, a good damn football team. And now you have seemingly added that left guard that we have not been able to find for years into the place. You've got that potential difference maker in Emmanwori. You've got your long-term quarterback option. You got an Arroyo who will be a weaponized piece in here to go. You've got a Horton who eventually may ascend into that starting wide receiver role. You got Oots out there taking guys on, being physical on blocks. You saw it on a couple times in practice, that guy can bring the lumber for his size. You can see how that guy gets in the hole, meets a linebacker, and that linebacker is then left out of the hole. You can totally see that. And that's just the bare minimum of guys we're talking about. That doesn't even include Riley Mills or Richmond or Cable Dew or Ricky White, who didn't look bad either out there. It's just Horton looks so good. Ricky looks fine too. And so the draft class looks like the real deal here. They look like not only the real deal, but a draft class that can give you returns very quickly to some degree, that you're going to, long terms, potential difference makers here. But right out the gate, you're also going to be able to get something, Thomas, from these guys. Arroyo, if he just gives you 25 catches for 400, 500 yards, he gives you 40 catches for five, in that realm of things. He doesn't have to be true difference maker. Just we've got you as this little component we can kind of go to. Horton the same way. Go out, get you 20, 25, 30 catches in a year. Be a kind of a big play guy that we can kind of work out. Be the punt returner in there as well with that. Zabel, we need you to start. But Milroe will be kind of that same thing. Where it's first year, we're just kind of bringing you in here and there. Just give us a little bit of something. It's not what you're going to be long term, but just give us a little bit of something to top all this off. Give us that little bit of extra juice. And you're right, man. NFC West should be scared. San Fran went for a bunch of run stuffing defensive tackles and a linebacker who weighs less than me. And Rams went out and traded their first round pick away for their next quarterback next year, already looking to the next season, perhaps, I guess. Cardinals have their first round pick on ice through all of training camp. We'll see how that calf situation goes. Yeah, I'm kind of liking it, Thomas. I'm kind of liking it. Martin the edges, Mike Morris has been active in camp when I've seen him out there off the edge. Lawrence active, looks good out there. I got to say that I think Hall and Mafe have been a bit quiet to my eyes. Didn't do a lot. Haven't heard a lot about them doing a lot. Dick to Brandon, any thoughts on news K9 missed today's practice after missing the Lumen Field practice? Really injury? Something else? I guess. I'm thinking it's the foot by the sound of it. So, that sounds legitimate, and you want to be careful with foot injuries because I think they can go very quickly wrong. It's disappointing. And the thing with this disappointment with Kenneth is it's just really down to sort of your last option here, Kenneth. You're going to be here for the next year, and that's probably going to be it. And this is your opportunity to go out there this year and make some money for you in a contract extension. But if you can't stay healthy as a player, it's just teams can't count on you. You're not going to make the money, no matter how talented you are. And the fact that he's injured before you even get into live contact, we're going to have to start to get to the place where the guy just maybe doesn't have a body that's built to be able to sustain in the NFL. And I'm kind of starting to get there with this on him. I'm not completely like Bale, but it's just like I can't count on you, man. You got to be available a little bit. Brian, I really want an upgrade at cornerback too. That'd be nice, man, if you could find one. I think there's a couple guys long term that you can look at that teams will eventually maybe be out of the running and they'll be out of the running in there as far as their playoffs go. And they've got a guy maybe the last year of his contract that you can look at with that later on into the season. A couple guys to maybe kind of keep an eye on with that. Alontae Taylor, Tyreek Stevenson, Greg Newsome. Those would be guys that maybe come up a little bit. Trayvon Diggs with Dallas, his contract there could be a guy to kind of monitor a little bit there too. But other than that, there wasn't a lot out there I've seen that's available as it stands right now. Catalyst says Horton's phenomenal. I really love Brandon's comparison to Brandon Ayuk too. Yeah, just really good route runners with really good hands, really good ball skills. They track the ball right. All of kind of some of the base skills for a wide receiver. There's extra skills. There's, can he block? But some of the base like skills you'd gravitate for a wide receiver, Horton's got. The juice, the quickness, the speed, change of direction, body control, hands, tracking of the ball. He's got all of those things very, very, very refined as a player, especially for a rookie. Yeah, Space, Olu's going to be the starting center. Ricky, why did Horton fall that much in the draft? The way his college coaches talked about him, you would have thought he would have for sure shot up to the first round pick. I've got some theories on this, Ricky. Number one, the injury in the final year of college is going to ding guys, and it varies by how hard it's going to ding a guy. We saw with, for instance, I think of Jackson Smith-Njigba, that if Jackson Smith-Njigba goes into the final year of his college and he doesn't have his hamstring pulled, he probably comes out the other side of it and is a top 10 pick in that draft, especially that draft that was weak for wide receivers. So it allowed him that injury to drop to 20. In Horton's case, he's a guy that had 2,000-yard seasons and then came in that final year and then had the injury, and it really robbed a lot of his season. And that teams just really dinged him for that. Did they have something on the medicals they saw, maybe, Ricky, that told them that this thing is going to be a problematic issue down the line? I mean, maybe. That's part of what I wonder with this, is if there was something extra on the medical that just stood out to them. It was like, he's got a ticking time bomb in his ankles. I don't know. Because it just doesn't make sense when you have a guy that is this productive in college, that has just the 1 year pop up at the wrong time, that, to your point, has the coaches effusively singing his praises at every turn, that guy would fall this far into a draft. I had a 3rd round grade on him. I thought it was more fair to say that coming into this year, he would have been a 2nd round graded guy. If he came minimum as puts up a 1,000-yard year, he's probably a 2nd round graded guy. Maybe even get some talk up of being a late 1st, depending. And I dinged him down in the 3rd round on my board, thinking that should be kind of his floor as a minimum where he should go, because the talent is there. But I'm not sure. It's not like he's got super short arms. He's 6'1". He's got good size. I really don't have a good answer for you on that one. This one doesn't make as much sense to me. With JSN, it's a 10-spot drop in a 1st round. And with this kid, it's seemingly going from what would have been a 2nd round likelihood down all the way into that 5th. It's like, woof, that's a hell of a drop. Especially, again, Ricky, this wide receiver draft wasn't particularly strong. It was all right. Some people were down on it. Maybe I'm glad we finally have a contested catch X receiver. He can do that. Tory can definitely do that. My man's got some ball skills. CJ, Brandon, do you think Horton can possibly be a better returner than D. Williams? Seahawks legend? Oh, yeah. He's got him beat by a mile. Especially when it just comes to the fluidity in catching the ball. When you watch these guys catch these punt returns, and especially now the last couple of years being able to see them at training camp, where you have guys that are in varying ranges of comfortability in catching the punts, you can just feel with them when the ball's in the air and how they're moving underneath the ball, whether they're comfortable doing it, whether they're good at doing it. You don't even need to get to the point of them actually catching the ball. You just watch them with their feet and how they're moving around back there. You get the one guy going and then running up late to try to get up there and catch it, and he's putting his hands out here like this, which is what D. Williams would do, versus the guy that just can kind of, he's sitting there having a cigarette, watching the ball. He's got his hands ready. He's just watching it. We'll take a step over here. Got it. I'm going to get my return. That's how Tory is. He's just back there with his smoke, just kind of, he doesn't have 2 hands up. He's got one hand just kind of haphazardly up. Did he kick it? Oh, okay. Here we go. And he's gone. And then he's got that side-to-side quickness and change of direction that you need as a returner, where guys come and you can plant and kind of cut. Mookie says, can't remember if we saw many toss plays at practice. Don't think it was a ton. Good to see Mookie in the house, man. How you doing? Yeah, I don't think we saw too many of those. I think it was mainly they stuck on the outside zone stuff. Probably trying to get the running backs repped out on that, because there's a little bit more of that read approach you have to do on the outside zone versus toss. Just toss it and go. Dick to Brandon, I thought Charbonnet was super wild. He was nice. He looked good. He looked good to me. Yeah, Charbonnet looked like he slimmed down a bit here, Martin. He looked a little quicker to me. Just a hair. I don't want to overstate it too much, but looked a little thinner. Says, I'm honestly not concerned about this receiving room, especially since this offense will be pretty run heavy. They look like they're fine. I mean, Cooper looks healthy, and Tory's ascent there, and even a guy like Derek Young looking pretty solid in practice. Haven't spoke a lot about him, but he was looking all right. Dick to Brandon, has Jokidia Wright earned a few more snaps in the preseason games, or hide him and stash him on the practice squad for the year? I don't think that there's as much there with Jakarta Wright as some may be speaking about addicted. I think he's just a guy. He's kind of one of those guys that people fall in love with, maybe as a back-end, running back roster guy. But you could get, I think, Jakarta Wright at any point during the year as that kind of guy anywhere. There's not a ton there to me. I mean, he's been fine, but he's all right. King says, I think Bohanna or Peely will be the nose tackle too once we get Hankins back. I could see it. I think Peely's got a little bit of an edge, but Bohanna's been making noise too. Absolutely could see that. I'm wondering if Christian Haynes' time in Seattle is already over. Seems this training camp isn't going well for him. Was a good couple days for me on watching him. And when you're not even putting him out there at right guard the first day, and Bryce was saying maybe they're putting him at center because it kind of protects his shoulder, and they can, it's a little bit easier to play in there from that position doing it that way. But we'll see if it's the pec and if it's where the pec's at and how bad that situation is. But it better be an injury. It's not an injury. If it was an injury that's causing him out there, then they're definitely about seemingly done with him at that point. That you don't have your third round pick out there practicing at all, and we were thinking day 2, we were talking about it. We're like, is this tough love? Is he just trying to get the messaging through? You're going to do a righty, you're getting no reps. And it's got to be the injury. I think he's wearing that brace, and that does kind of track and add up. CJ Kobe Bryant looked good back there. He made a couple plays in practice. Didn't do any interceptions or anything like that, but he was solid in coverage. Came up in the running game. He looks a little bit thicker today this year as a player to me, watching him walk around on the sideline. And they had him back there a lot, CJ, versus putting a lot of Emmanwori back there, taking him off the field. So it does feel like with Emmanwori, it's more of kind of you might see him at times in safety, especially they run 3 safety looks. But you're not necessarily taking Kobe Bryant off the field when you do that. Says, I'm so glad D-Law is looking like the beast we know him as. Boy, is he. That first day of practice, Seth, my jaw was dropping. It's like he's taking the running game over. They cannot run the ball because of DeMarcus Lawrence right now. So this is Riley Mills is going to be a nice draft pick when he's back and healthy. He's a big man. It's a big boy watching him on the sideline. That knee may not be in good shape, but he's working the bench, if you know what I mean. Couple cannons on that man. King, we need to go out and sign Clowney and Will Hernandez. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no at all. Still no news on the AJ Finley front yet. Guessing it's probably going to be the old ACL in that one, Mookie. If they're waiting this long to let us know it was all right, they'd be like, oh, he's twisted his knees. Catalyst, Finley went up on a reception attempt with Derek Young on a contested catch throw. I think it was on another Jalen Milroe jump pass, by the way, in the scrimmage game, and he came down. He was the only guy with a major injury coming out of the scrimmage. Orthodox Russ, Darnold threw a touchdown pass to Barner on the first day of play practice. Hell yeah. Barner looking good too. Barner looks good year 2. He looks smooth out there. Strong hands. Made a couple of contested catches. Sloppy One, how you doing, man? It's good to see you too. Thomas says, I think Dan Viennes or Hawk Blogger said that Will Hernandez doesn't fit Seattle's wide zone scheme. I think Seattle thinks they will wait till after the Raiders to get a player by either free agency, etc. That makes a lot of sense. Gap-based stuff is predominantly what the Cardinals run, Thomas. So definitely what he's been most familiar with and what he's run recently over there. And coming off the ACL, you wouldn't expect him to be at his as quick as he was prior. Like maybe it takes a little bit of time to kind of get over that a bit. Candles thinks Barner's going to be a cornerstone piece. Just might be. I think he can pull it off too, King Bomber. I don't know if it's his perfect scheme fit for him, but some of this could be a little bit of the any port in a storm situation when it comes to Will Hernandez. We get no Haynes. LeMay is still a nightmare in pass pro, and Bradford still just whiffs too often. You got to go grab something at that point. Maybe not the worst of places to go to just to try to find something that can work. But I agree, Thomas. I don't think that Hernandez is exactly a number one priority kind of guy either. Luke says, I think Arroyo still needs work at the catch point. Barner might still be tight end 1 when the season starts. I think he will be. I think they're going to work in Arroyo, and as much because I think Arroyo's an H-back and can't do as much of the inline stuff. And so you're going to try to not put him to be, made vulnerable as a run blocker at times, I think. But also because he's a rookie and you just want to kind of, my ideal rookie with rookies is to try to get him a role. Carroll was one of the guys that brought me onto this a little bit because this is what he used to do with freshmen at USC is you bring these guys in and part of your recruiting them, when you didn't have the NIL money to spend is you'd say, okay, look, the thing that we're going to do is a difference here versus you going to Florida or Miami is you're going to come in here and we're going to get you playing as a true freshman. We're going to make you our number 1 kick returner. You're going to be our slot receiver. You're going to be our goal line safety and short yardage safety, and then we're going to expand you on that. And then you get them to kind of get that role sort of worked on and comfortable with it, and they've got that right, and then you start to expand beyond that a little bit. I kind of like to see the same thing at Arroyo, where you got him a role there, you don't try to throw him out there too much, especially with injury history. Just kind of let him work in on those collective of packages, almost a bit like Milroe, where you've got your every week you're putting your game plan together, and you got your Milroe packages, and you have your Arroyo packages, and then you have your kind of normalized offense and what you're going to run. Stuart says, remember how everyone was down on the Barner and Knight picks? I love Barner. I was down on the Knight pick, though, Stuart. I will say that. But I was a big Barner believer. Big Barner believer. BBB. CD Woods, I think we're looking for year 3 of the Bradford experiment. Yes, sir. Thomas, I was listening to a podcast about how the Raiders fan fest, and it was exactly what us fans complained about. The defense couldn't stop a cold, but the offense was going up and down the field. Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see where Carroll's defense is at a little bit. I don't know if we're going to learn a lot about that until you do get to the regular season, because they're not going to game plan and run a lot of crazy stuff with that. And the other part of this, too, with the Raider defense, Thomas, is, you don't have a lot on that defense. It's a lackluster bunch. Carroll's got a lot of work to do. Crosby's a nice piece, and you got a guy here and a guy over there. But it's going to take some building out there in Raider Town. Thomas says, I'd be all for an improvement at right guard. I don't care if it's the draft, free agency, or trade, but something going on with Will Hurd is he isn't a bad player. Yeah, maybe there is something inherently a little bit deeper at play there. I think that's a fair point of this, especially in this league, Thomas, that desperately needs offensive linemen. It's not like these guys should be turned away. Maybe he's wanted a little too much or something. But it's a good point. King says, Pete Carroll just can't keep his hands off good things that Patrick Graham might be doing. Catalyst says, Graham struggled last year. Blitzing was too high. Well, that's what happens when you don't have the talent in the front to get it done, is you start blitzing too much to try to generate the pressure, and then they got you. Stuart says, like you, baby. Thank you, Stuart. I appreciate you. Seth says, well, I thought the franchise tags was to ensure that they get the average of the top players. I think he can still go out and get an even bigger contract elsewhere. Oh, you're speaking to someone else in there, sorry. Moo, thank you for becoming a member of the channel, Moo. I appreciate you for doing that. Very, very kind of you. Welcome aboard. We're going to be getting call-in shows here shortly. I got a busy week here over the next week, but we'll be getting those going back up here soon. Get you guys the PFF scores out to members of the channel, hopefully on Monday, just after the game this week, if you are a member of the channel. So, Moo, do please keep an eye on your community post. That's where I post the membership benefits, and we'll keep those running high and well this year. But thank you, Moo. Y2K, thank you for the $2 donation. Any interest in Watson, the receiver for the Packers, for a 5th-round pick? No. But Y2K, I think that my assessment with Watson's kind of fit to true form. I don't think he's a full meal deal kind of wide receiver. I think part of drafting Matthew Golden is, from the Packers' perspective, that they have not been sold on what they've been able to get from Watson, and that he's not been able to fulfill that big play wide receiver role on the team that they need, because they got a lot of intermediate guys around that. He's also very injury injured often. He's not going to give you any kind of special teams value. So I would not be, for a guy like, I wouldn't be in on that one myself. No. Just a guy to me has been a little bit underwhelming for what people were hoping him to be, but I didn't like him a lot coming out of college either. I could definitely understand the speed part of it, but yeah. Orthodox, share the pizza and I'll hit the like button. Thomas says the fact that they cut Christian Wilkins was mind-boggling. mind-boggling. Either it's Pete telling the team bad won't work, or they're gone, or he's not what he was 10 years ago. I think it's kind of a page out of the Poe Carroll playbook. I think what he's done with Christian Wilkins is the same thing that he did with TJ Hushmanzada. If anything, I feel like it's almost that he comes in and he's like, I got to take somebody out to make a message thing. Who's a big, well-paid person on the roster that I can sort of do that to a little bit. Or if he's not looking for it, if a situation happens with one of those well-paid guys in that first year, that he's like, all right, here's my chance to send a very strong message real quick. And, you not only cut this guy, but you're coming after his money too. That's pretty strong messaging, back to the rest of the team that what you're trying to get established. Weird too, there's just a lot of back and forth on the Wilkins thing. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And it doesn't have a lot of clarity as to what's going on. Dreams, how's Reek Woolen? Haven't heard as much about him. He's looked good to me. I think he may have given up a completion here or there, but overall he made a couple plays on balls in practice as well. He's been tight, moving fast, looking good and comfortable out there. And I don't think he was targeted a lot either through the couple of days of practice I saw Dreams. A lot of what you're doing was, of course, going kind of more underneath and attacking underneath in that way. But, when other guys were giving up completions, it felt like it was kind of on other guys. Maybe there's like one completion I can remember him giving up, but he looked fast. He looked good to me. I think they're probably limiting maybe some of the snaps they're throwing him out there too, and even Witherspoon at times trying to get some of the run to the other guys. Especially with Shaquille Griffin out there. Stewart, Milroe to Bowden, Horton, and Royal will be the preseason feature. Boy, Milroe and Bowden, those guys you would have thought those guys both went to Alabama together. That they've been throwing each other since high school, those guys, the way they got their connection. Yeah, Brand IU catalyst for Horton. Same kind of, they do move very similar in that way. Thomas says, dude, I'm still not a fan of Bradford. Seeing what I saw last season, etc., won't change my mind. He grabs too much. If Cable do, Sundell, or Richmond play to start at right guard, then I'm fine. To your point, Sundell's not being used at center, Thomas. He's being used over right guard and right tackle. And part of what we were wondering about on the berm on this, and we're kind of putting our heads together on this, is the intention on this maybe that they want to get Sundell starting somewhere? And right guard would seem maybe the spot where you go through it and you go, okay, Haynes is maybe out with whatever's going on there. And then Bradford, like you say, you kind of know what he is. The one thing I will say that Bradford's that's interesting is that he's been in this league for 3 years, but he's basically the same age as Haynes. And that maybe tells you, I don't know if that informs you that maybe there's more there development-wise, or that he's, because he's had a little bit more chance to round that out. We'll see. I don't think that they're going to have a real long leash on him if it's going to be a lot of the, whiffs and weird plays that he tends to have in there. So probably nice if somebody else could find footing there. We'll have to see. Martin says the great thing is training against this defense. And thank you. Somebody else said they were working on out the roof working, listening to the show. I appreciate you for doing that, by the way. I didn't read the message, but hopefully if you're out there listening to me and you're working, the workday's not too hard, not sweating too much, and you're almost done. But I appreciate everybody out there for listening and tuning into the channel. You guys are awesome. Marcia, the great thing is training against this defense every week should really help improve our offense. If you're training against a top 5 defense, you have to improve on how you play just to keep pace. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's the old thing you want to do where you want to make practice harder than the actual games if you can do it. You can't always do that. Sometimes you got some limitations that hold you back from doing it. But if you can do it, that's the ideal. And when you hear players say that's a team that's winning games. That's a team that's going to the playoffs when they're saying practices are harder than the game days for us. And you very well could be setting the stage for that. I think, too, when it comes to stopping the run, the nice part about this is the McDonald defense, with its scheme, with how it sets up schematically, has some natural vulnerabilities when it comes to stopping the run. And you're working on this against this offense week in, week out as well. Maybe you're getting better and better as well to how you stop that run and that gap integrity, and just repping it out constantly gets you to that spot a bit. So I think it could kind of work both ways on this one. And I agree it could. JF says, who do you think will be on the field versus the Raiders? I think you're going to see a heavy amount of Milroe, and the rookies are going to be all over the place on that football field. I think you're going to get a lot of Sundell probably is going to be at center. They're going to probably try to protect Olatimi here a little bit on that, especially with probably no Haynes. Bradford will probably get a lot of run at right guard. little bit of Lucas, and then you're going to get a mix of guys out there at tackle, Jarrell at left tackle. I would doubt you see Cooper Kupp or JSN. You're not seeing any starters. McDonald's basically told you that, I think, for the most part. There'll be a couple guys, though, that are they starters or are they not yet. It's still open. So, that's kind of an open-ended phrase on his part as to who's considered a starter and who isn't. I think you're going to get a lot of Damian Martinez. I don't think you're going to get any Charbonnet. It'll be Martinez, Holani, and the Jacardi kid will be your three runners of the rock out there. On the defensive side of the ball, none of the vets, none of the young, none of our, starting, no Mafe, no Hall, no Leo Williams, no Byron Murphy. It's going to be a lot of, Peely, Bohanna. Your inside linebackers aren't starting, so you get a lot of Drake Thomas and Patrick O'Connell. Tyakata will be out there a bunch. Safety position, no Julian Love. You will get some Emmanwori. It's going to be really about the rookies and Milroe that you really want to lock in on, JF. It's going to be watching those guys and seeing what they're doing because Milroe is going to get a ton of run. Locke will get some. Milroe will probably get almost like 3/4, I would say at least. This is all I know is our kickoff team must look better because we were god-awful last season. The Jets almost ran back multiple kickoffs on them. Jay better get it right. Better get it right, man. Especially this year. You're going to kick it off to them. You're going to squib it. You're going to pooch punt. Whatever. You're not kicking in the back of the end zone, letting them start from the 35-yard line if you can. Catalyst, it was also his footwork off the play action too, where he couldn't drive the ball and simply threw it short. Being Jalen? Yeah, he's still working on that. He's a shotgun guy throughout his career at Alabama. It's again part of why it takes the 2 years. You're having to learn skills and ways you get to your drop back that you've never really practiced before. It takes time. Run, Milroe, run. That's right. That's right. Milroe layaway, Brian. Nitro says the energy around this team just feels way better than most seasons. Post Super Bowl loss, it's great to see. The vibe is good. The vibe is right. To your point, I get that sense too. I dig to Brandon. Do you have any sort of snap count for Utz at Lumen? Feels like I saw him once or twice, but even that's a guess for me. I think you get him out there a good amount. I think there's even probably going to be some tight end snaps for him in this game. Because he'll be another one of those rookies you really want to try to work him in and get him comfortable throughout preseason here because you want him ready for the regular season for the limited snaps you'll have in the regular season when you go to fullback looks. So you're going to get him a lot of run, I would expect, even more so than the regular season. Vic says it's crazy that Jerry Jones made a deal with Jake Ferguson before they made a deal with Micah. Defense wins championships. You're right to notice it, and it's part of why I've said this whole situation with Jerry from start to finish has been almost a sabotaging of negotiations. Throw into it, Mick, this part. Micah Parsons comes in his first year, 13 sacks. Micah Parsons comes into his second year, 13 and a half sacks. Micah Parsons comes into his third year, 14 sacks. The list of NFL players that have ever done that in NFL history, I think you can pretty much count it on your hand. Not to mention the guy last year was still 12 sacks despite missing a couple of games. So 4 straight seasons with more than 10 sacks to begin his career. So let's unpack this just a little bit. If players are able to negotiate contract extensions after the first 3 years of the rookie deal, if they have outperformed that rookie deal, which is why the CBA is put in that way, that's why they're allowed to do that. How has Micah Parsons not accomplished that by Jerry Jones's eyes? Because he obviously hasn't if he forces him to go out and then play in a 4th year of his deal. He played through the 4th year. He's going into year 5 of his deal right now. There's no part of this that looks good on Jerry Jones. And then, yeah, you're right. You go and do a contract extension with Ferguson first after you've already waited that extra year when it comes to Parsons. You would think that one of these things could eventually set the guy off to be like, nah, to hell with you. I'm done with you. I don't want to play this stupid game. I got a limited shelf life as a pro. I got a limited time I can go out there and make this kind of money. Stop messing with me. And I'm never a guy that likes to talk about how money gets related back to respect by players and all that. I sometimes think it's silly. Just come out and say you want more money. Don't hide it behind respect. But there's a little bit of disrespect involved here with the Parsons situation. The way Jerry's talked about him, Michael Parsons. He's injured like 6 games. He was injured 4 games last year. It's these kind of things where it's like you're getting disrespectful with it. And I've seen players get blown out for less in other organizations I'll say that too. I mean, geez, Jerry was throwing shade at freaking that receiver a couple days ago as reference as to why they're so hardline on stuff. I negotiate with them. They say they're going to go in and practice every day. Then they don't practice. Then I call up their agent, and their agent just doesn't respond to my calls. Going after retired players, Jerry. Stay classy, Jones. Stay classy. Thomas says, Brando, I'm sorry, Russell Wilson was a lottery ticket too. Yes, he's more advanced than Milroe. I remember draft pundits, media, et cetera, saying Russ would be nothing more than a backup. Yes, I can only say that I can't speak to the generalization of the various opinions that are out there on these kind of guys with that a little bit, Thomas. You know, I can only kind of go off of just my inherent belief on these. You know, I don't want to delve too much into like, well, these guys think this and these guys think that. Specifically, I'd say this because for me on Russell Wilson, I wasn't one of those people that was in the camp of that. And some of this evaluation I'm being asked about is my own personal feelings on Milroe and where I see Milroe at and what I think Milroe needs to do to get where he's going. I don't see him in the same way as Wilson. I don't push back on you in saying that it's very much a lottery ticket situation too. I would say that anytime you're taking a quarterback in the third round with any kind of hope for him to eventually become a starter, there's a lottery ticket analogy in there in just general terms by the nature of where you're picking that guy and how infrequently those guys end up really doing anything and making any kind of noise in this league. The difference between Milroe and Russ, though, is to me titanically wide when we come to the little part that you kind of bury in there where you say, well, yes, he's more advanced than Milroe. It's a little bit of you're kind of underselling it a little bit there with that sentence. He's much further along than Milroe was. He went to multiple college programs and played in multiple systems in college, did Russell Wilson, and he was successful in each. He went to the Wisconsin program in his final year and chose that program partly because they ran a pro-style system, which would better prepare him then for the upcoming draft the next year. And he went in there and he executed a pro-style system, Thomas, under center, running play action, and did so throwing at a 73% completion percentage clip out of that offense. Whereas with Milroe, you see the completion percentage down at 63% in a spread formation offense, which should be more built to piling up the completions more than the pro style when you're running under center. There was the advanced analytics on Russell Wilson coming out, Thomas, that put him up as high a grade as any quarterback that they had looked at coming out of college. I wish I could give you the reference exactly to it, but they were projecting him out. And they said, look, we're not even meaning to do this. We don't even know why the numbers are pushing this Russell kid out there for this kind of projection. It's just what the basic computations are telling us. And so are there the lotto ticket sides? Yes. But is there a big difference between we're looking at a Milroe to a Wilson as far as your understanding of one guy having a potential of getting to that spot versus the other? With Wilson, it was a matter of not whether or not he had the advanced skill set, but was the height limitation going to be enough to upend him completely, or could he work around the height limitation? Milroe, it's that there are so many rough edges to his game that have to be rounded out all the way down the line that the lotto ticket odds, if we're putting together on this, Thomas, are just to me much more wider out there for a guy like Milroe than Russell. I'll give you the lotto ticket for any guy in the third round, but those guys, there's definitely a difference between the two of them coming out of college. I'll give you there was a lot of pundits that were selling on Russell in the same way Milroe is selling. Another place I'll definitely acknowledge and say you're right there 100%. But that was also a little bit of the lazy evaluation process on Russell that kind of existed out there from guys that just obviously didn't seem to do much work on looking really into him. And it was just kind of like, oh, he's 5'10", it ain't going to work. Understanding again at that time that there was a real anti-bias against guys under 6 feet tall at the quarterback position that they just couldn't, there was no way it could happen. It was impossible to make it happen for them as pros. So, I think there's some truth in what you said, but I do think that there's a bit of a big difference between those two guys on how they line up as players. Martin says, what we're hoping for is that the boom or bust element to Milroe's play will iron itself out if he's given time to develop. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Thomas says, maybe I'm wrong, but hearing on positive improvement from the Senior Bowl to now, yes, Milroe may not work out, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does pan out. I'm hopeful for it, Thomas. I am. It's just, I get asked direct questions. I got to give my answer on just where I'm at with it. It's not hoping that he doesn't. It's not, I want Milroe to be awesome. I want Milroe to be the best quarterback in the sport. I want him to realize his potential. But part of it also is Thomas and me kind of harping on this a little bit with the 2-year timeline is the understanding that what we're going to deal with this next year is a lot of people chomping at the bit to throw Milroe out there. And my understanding, and it's as strong an opinion as I can have in this sport about quarterbacks that are like this in this vein. And that is that you got to give them the time and you got to fight that urge. You got that urge to take it out of the wrapping paper and to start using it and let's go. But you just got to me, hunker down, trust in the process, trust in the plan that you put in place, and understand there was a reason why you put this process in place for him, and let it work out that way or not work out. And I think to me, Thomas, there's much more of a chance that in the next 2 years, if you throw Jalen Milroe out there to start on a consistent basis, to me, there's a huge level of a chance that this thing fails in full by doing that. I think there's a much more improved chance of the success with giving him the 2 years, and then he's got a little bit of a chance to really let it grow. Time for the Stenson Bennett era. That's right. Thomas, as I said, Russ was advanced. My point is we don't know what summer of his first year. I watched the same games Milroe played when he had 4-0 season 2 head coaches. It affects Milroe's development. Yeah, it's definitely not good for you having that much coaching turnover, especially because the two offenses, to your point, are very widely different and in what they bring. I think you're responding more to Catalyst there. Stewart says Milroe is a freak at the quarterback position. Got a lot to correct. Maybe he overcomes his weaknesses. Maybe he can't. The fact that he's coachable and determined gives him a legitimate shot. And that's where I think back, Thomas, this is the thing that does as much, I think, give me that hope more than I would typically have of a player like this, because I would tend to shade a player like this in my background and watching these kind of quarterbacks to say, look, I have such a low hit rate on these kind of QBs. It is well below, it's well into the low single digits. But the fact that he has the background and the work ethic he brings to play on this gives a lot of hope to the situation. Because I think a lot of these guys that do fail to get there come from a lot of a background of not having the work ethic. And that when you trace back a guy that's ultimately really talented, let's say a Jeff George type back in the day, but never quite can get into it, it's lack of leadership, lack of work ethic, lack of really turning into the best version of the possible player you could be. And I think Milroe is going to do everything in his power to work his butt off to become that player. And that gives him more than just a chance. Absolutely it does. I can't believe we haven't beaten Matthew Stafford as a Rams as King Bomber. It's been a little bit rough. Thomas says, my point, there was no history of a short quarterback being a Pro Bowl player. Russ changed that. I believe Milroe, if he works hard, can be too. Seattle has a good plan with Milroe by giving him time. Well said, Thomas. Well said. Yeah, we've had some unlucky games against Stafford. It's been a little bit of a tough part. Jordan says we beat Stafford as a Ram when Wilson was here. Didn't we? I think thought he was injured for that game, Jordan. I could be misremembering it. Martin says, I'm sorry, but you can't be running back one and command running back money if you've got K9's injury record. Well, to your point, this may be a situation with K9 where if it's continuing to be an injury throughout training camp, Charbonnet may end up overtaking the job as your number one back if it does kind of continue. I could see it being where the coaches eventually get a little bit frustrated with it and like, look, we'll just use you as a gadget guy here and there because we just can't count on you at all. Duma's K9's new YouTube channel. He was proud despite himself junking out on Oreos. Lots of S-bombs, not a good look. I got to see him getting extended, especially with good limited availability. Yeah, he's not going to get a contract here unless he can play the majority of these games this year, and I'm talking 15, 16 games. The team, I think, just kind of goes, okay, we've waited. It's not coming along. And we've seen with multiple backs through our history here, Carson's, Rashad Penny's, that these running backs that just get dinged up all the time and can't stay out on the field, it just doesn't tend to reverse course. They don't just seem to magically suddenly now start to get healthier. Yeah. Art says, watching a wide receiver like Horton is like watching science and art combining to produce a masterpiece of football. Ooh-wee, let's go. Let's go. And Thomas, I think it's good points on it with the part on Lamar and Josh. And, there's potential for guys to develop. Every individual guy is different for me, Thomas. I mean, that's just the part where I don't like to do the broad brush stuff when it comes to quarterbacks because they're just all so different, and the different issues with different guys coming from different places is all kind of in different places with it, just a little bit there. But there certainly is, nobody's got an understanding on Milroe of whether he's going to be a success or a failure. And it's on both sides as it stands right now. And the potentiality is there for both ends. It is. As far as knowledge and know-how that he's going to reach that, I as I said, there's a lot of QBs we could go through, Thomas, and I can eventually, if you really want us, we could do a whole show on, looking at the freak show quarterbacks that come out over the last 20 years. And, those have been in varying levels, and try to find the rough, raw ones and how many of those have developed. I think you are getting into more of a single-digit territory by and large when you have guys that have the raw edges of skill sets. I think that, like, for instance, we make the comparison to Josh Allen. I think sometimes that gets into a little bit of a one that I have a little bit of a sensitivity to on this, because the man went to Wyoming. And when you actually watch the tape, rather than look at actually just the 56% completion percentage, you're watching him throw to guys and put it in their arms and put it in the right spot and put it in the right place. And the guys just can't catch it. You got a bunch of guys that are going to be ranch hands out in Wyoming 3 years from there getting out of college. It's not a representation then that Josh Allen necessarily, inherently didn't have the goods. It's part of why he was eventually, a top 10 pick when it was all said and done, despite the fact he had the 56% completion percentage, because an NFL evaluator saw that. Like, yeah, there's some stuff he's got to work on in his game to get better as a young player coming out of college, but it's not in this ultimately highly rough, raw place to where there's very small chance we expect he's got any chance of getting there, I guess. I feel like if you went, Thomas, to the evaluators in the NFL and you said the 32 evaluators with Allen coming out, how much confidence have this guy is going to develop and reach ultimately a really high upside versus 32 evaluators looking at Milroe and said, what do you think the chances of him getting that upside? I think you would have found that Allen would have had way more people and Lamar would have had way more people as far as general managers in that boat saying, we've got way more confidence these guys are going to get there than necessarily this guy. But it doesn't, again, preclude. I don't want to sound like there's not a chance there for Milroe. And I think we can sometimes, Thomas, end up beating this one to death because, we get so much certainty from so much folks that are so much proponents of him and saying, I think he's going to get there. And it was just 75%, and I think he will get there. And the opponents say, look, I don't have a lot of track record on it. I think both sides have real strong ground to stand on with it. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of one where we just got to kind of sit and let the thing develop and see where it's at 2 years down the line, and sort of revisit it then when he's going to be at that point in line to potentially be that starting quarterback. But it's a bit of a fool's errand to try to unpack it right now because it is a lotto ticket and it is one that's just up in the air. But it's also one where it's not been more reinforced for a couple of, splashy moments and practices over the, couple weeks that somehow is reinforced that it has been fixed, that this thing has overnight been corrected. It's a long process. It's going to take a long process. And I think we were prepared for that. We knew it going into it when we took him. And again, I think that's part of what's going to give him a really good chance as much as anything, Thomas, with the work ethic to get to that high side. But the amount that he has to work on versus the amount of Lamar and the amount that Josh Allen had to work on, it's a lot different. And that's where making these comparisons to me is a little bit tough because we can unpack it from player by player or from the ground up, from his feet to his how he unwinds the ball, how the kinetic energy comes through, how the ball comes out of his hand, to how he processes in the pocket, to when it goes wrong, his decision making and what he does within that. It's a variety of things that have got to kind of come forward for him as a player to reach that upside. But the upside is true. It's real. He can be every bit the player of Lamar Jackson. He can be the player of a Josh Allen on that upside. I believe that. But it just needs that time to get there, I think, a little bit. Jacob Frederick, yo, bro, I'm a Steelers fan. Are you ready for Seattle? I'm ready, Jacob. We're going to have a hell of a battle. It's going to be a lot of physicality, a lot of blood going this way and blood going that way and just, snot bubbles. I'm loving it, Jacob. It's going to be a good battle. It's going to be a hell of a good battle. Two teams that want to run the ball. Who runs the ball better maybe is going to be what dictates that matchup and who wins it. Dogzilla, I think he meant vent starters by Mac McDonald saying starters will not play. I think guys like a Bradford are going to play. Those kind of guys, but the more of the vet guys. Thomas says, if people think that the next draft will get a next quarterback, can look at the Cleveland Browns. They've been changing quarterbacks faster than they change underwear. I believe Schneider's trying to copy the Packers, etc. I agree. I think, Thomas, too, the intention really is strongly in place, to your point on this, to roll with your quarterback room here as we go forward. I don't think that they're going to be as heavy a drive next year to be doing some look for a quarterback thing. Not high in the draft, at least. Thomas says, Raider fans will love Pete's defense. They'll make a play going 3rd and 20, and then the offense gets 21 yards and a 5 and out. Yeah, it's going to be a good week of sports, SL Hazard. Pete, Gino, and Raiders, Jalen Milroe, let's go. George says Lockett was a little more built. Horton seems a little skinny in the legs. Yeah, I mean, Lockett maybe on that. Lockett's also a good, I think, probably 4 inches shorter than Horton. And when you're a little shorter like that, it's a little easier to look stockier. But he's thin. That's the thing that stands out. He's very thin. King Bomber Tory Horton versus Will Johnson played on repeat. Let's go. Thomas says Haynes getting pulled back by assistant coaches speaks volumes, but seeing him at FanFest wasn't encouraging. It's a tough situation there with Haynes. I don't know how much of it's the injury or how much of it is the performance, but we're not getting steps forward here right now in this year, and it's feeling a little dark, that situation. Stewart says Marvin Harrison was really thin too. Some guys can do it. Hope and Horton can do it too. Yeah, you can get it done, the wide receiver position being a little thinner. You don't have to be a big, thick guy, and give him a little bit of time. Maybe he adds a little bit of weight. He's a good run blocker, I will say that. Herbicide says, I like Corbin better on the roundtable Seahawks show you guys did. That show allowed more of his personality to shine. Well, thank you, Herbicide. I thought he did great on it as well. We'll try to get Corbin on here if I can. I have in the past. He's pretty busy. See if we can pull him in here some point or another. Addicted Brandon, are you sending napkin drawings to Kubiak with Milroe, Barner, Arroyo, Oots, Charbonnet on the field? Call them the rugby sets. I was trying to airdrop him all practice. And I needed him to get within like 10 feet. And I was doing a lot of this motion with my phone as he was walking nearby, because I had him on the phone ready to go. And he's like, he looked at me at one point and he's like, are you trying to send me nudes, dude? I was like, no, I've got some plays for you, Coobs. I got some killer plays. It's like, I'm good, bro. Put your phone down. And then I did like one little sad final, what about, we just won. He's like, now, he gave me this. Like, now. Y2K. Oh, I did that one right. My bad. Mark Sanchez in the house. Good to see my man, Mark. How you doing, brother? Celebrating 21 months as a Hawks Nest Ring of Honor member. I appreciate you for that. B, are you going to get the new Rivals jersey when they're released, or are you going to wait and see? I'm going to wait and see. I tend to, if I go get a jersey now, I want to go get one that's going to be autographed. So if it's a cool looking one and I get one that's autographed by like maybe a Witherspoon jersey or something, I might do something like that. But I'm going to wait and see. I'll make sure I like it. They might go too crazy with this stuff now, Mark, you know? This new era, they sometimes go over the top. It's good to see you though, bro. Stuart says Bradford's got some real deficiencies, but it's apparently much better than Haynes. Surprising. Very surprising. Could be the injury thing too, though. This pec thing is odd. Richard Stewartson, thank you for becoming a Hawks Nest Pro Bowler. I appreciate you for doing that, Richard. I know you've been a member many times before, so I appreciate you for re-upping on the Hawks Nest. Thank you for that. Also dropping a $2 donation, my man. Didn't have anything in your note. He says, have we improved the squad for this year? Yes, Richard. Your defense comes back solidified and has everybody that you had last year, plus you have added on top, and maybe added on top significantly if Emmanwori especially can become the difference maker that he has looked in camp right out the gate. So you've gotten there off defensively, no doubt about it. You are going to be better. Offensively speaking, you look improved. The scheme looks like a better fit. The players are running the scheme well for just being the early kind of onboarding process. The quarterbacks all look good and have had their moments. So I think when I look at the squad as a whole, I just think that you've got a year or two of a coach who was very successful in his first year, not even able to run his defense with a full meal deal kind of approach, and that you have added on the talent to that defense. And that offense, though you've lost a couple of players this offseason, you've not taken necessarily a big step back because you've also added on top of that in other places, like a Gray Zelbel, like a Arroyo, the quarterbacks you brought in with Darnold and company. So, yes, Richard, I do. I do think we're improved. I've got us 11 wins this year, which would be one game improvement over where we were last year. Understanding we did get to 10 wins last year, partly because the Rams just rested everybody at the end of the year. But I see at least an 11-win season from this team this year, Richard. I do. Thank you, man. Appreciate the donation and becoming a member of the channel. Very, very kind of you for doing that. I appreciate it. Moo, hey, Brandon. I was curious, what did you think of Zabel? I've heard good things from others, but wanted to hear your thoughts on how he's doing. He looks solid in there. He's lock solid as a pass protector. There's some reps where I don't know if he got as much push up the field, where that's still, I think, a little bit more work in progress in what he's doing in the run game. But he did have one run where he was pushing a guy out in front, kind of not leading the way like pulling out in front, but just kind of pushing the guy out front. The running back's going right behind him, clearing through and making a nice run. He was solid out there all around. He doesn't, I don't see any rookie moments. I don't see him getting blown up post snap off the ball, or having, the real bad, like we get with, there was Bradford whiff reps. We still got some of those. There's still some bumps where Dan was watching on one where he's like, oh, Bradford did his thing on that play. He did the thing that he does. And I went, yep. Where he just completely, the box just blown from the jump. I didn't see any of that, Moo, from Zabel. He was pretty on the P's and Q's. Thomas says the fact Micah basically did an itemized list of Jerry Jones and his dealings to sign him, it shows a lot of stupidity. And if he gets traded, Cowboy fans need to run Jerry Jones out of town. I feel the same way, Thomas. When you got a player that's got so much ammunition to throw at the owner, because a lot of times these players will put these lists together and they're having to kind of invent misgivings and disrespects that they have had to undertake. And that's not the case. And again, Jerry plays this dangerous game, and he's done it before and he gets out of it. But it'd be one thing to me if Jerry played this dangerous game and it came out the other side of it that he then won contract negotiations and he was getting guys at a cheaper rate. I almost feel like that Tyrion Smith contract they signed Thomas years ago. Remember they signed Tyrion Smith to a 10-year deal, because that's the whole thing with this. Jerry wants to sign Micah to a 10-year deal, 8-year deal. Cowboy for life. But what he does is he gets you the payment on the front end, and then you get into year 4 of the deal, and rather than you getting another run at a contract, he wants you being stuck on the back end of a contract where you got nowhere to go. And Micah's like, no, I want to put me on a 3 or 4 year contract and let me have another chance at another big contract before I retire. I don't want to do that. That's not in my interest. No, we'll give you 10-year. We'll give you 10-year security. Bill says Parsons not leaving Dallas after all said and done. I don't think so either, Bill. Richard, brother, please tell me any new players have come to the Hawks. Oh, yeah, we got Arroyo, dynamic tight end who can really move, a weapon piece tight end who can be an outside receiver for you occasionally. Zabel as a solid left guard in there at a rookie who should be able to be an improvement over Laken Tomlinson instantaneously. You got Tory Horton, who looks like a player for you out of wide receiver, who's making some noise. Martez Valdez-Scantling, you got in free agency, solid. Sam Darnold looks competent, capable, comfortable. Add any C word you want in there, except for the CUNT word, and he looks it. So he's looking good too. Defensively, Arroyo, we got this difference-making safety in the draft, and he's been great right from the jump. So that's been nice. DeMarcus Lawrence, you got this vet in there that, does he have anything left in the tank? Man, that tank is full. That tank's got all the gas you need to go cross-country right there. So you've added some parts, Richard. Yeah. It's as much through the draft, I think, as anything else, outside of Darnold and Cooper Kupp, of course. You brought in 2 from the Rams, Richard. So you stole a little bit from the Rams. Worked out last year, grabbing Ernest Jones, getting them from that. I didn't want to get them directly from them. We had to wait for Tennessee to be an intermediary there. But able to get him from there. So maybe lightning strikes twice on that kind of one. Mark Sanchez, thank you for the $5 donation. Mark B, do you think we may make a trade or signing after the first preseason game? Can I do it before week 1, Mark? Can I pull a little bit extra on your question and kind of stretch it out a little bit? Because I don't know that it happens like right after week 1. But I do believe, Mark, and thank you for the $5 donation, I do believe a deal, a move is coming. And the real part that I get hung up on this, Mark, is you're sitting on $70 million of dead money. You got a certain amount of cap space you can spend money on. And you've got guys like DK and Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett, whose dead money is on the books, players playing for other organizations whose money still counts on your books. And $70 million, Mark, is more money and dead money you have on the books this year than you had in the Russell Wilson year, where you had to move him in that contract and eat all of that dead money to get him moved on. $70 million. Then you have almost $40 million in active cap space. So, maybe I'm thinking of it wrong on this, but if I was walking into the season, Mark, and you only had, let's say, $15 million of dead money, maybe it makes sense to me that you're not going to use all of that rest of that cap space up. But when you're already parking $70 million that's going to nothing, can you afford to throw another $30 million on top of that? Can you operate on a $100 million negative budget versus just about any other NFL roster in the sport and hope to still be a contender? I don't know that you can. And maybe John just feels like he's built this roster up so good and efficiently by, I don't need all that money. I've done this so well. I've drafted so well. I've traded so well. I don't need that money. But I would tend to think, given John's history on this, Mark, that he has never gone into an NFL season sitting on $40 million of cap space. Not to mention that dead money side of it, that I just think that that's enough of a draw that he's going to be like, let's go make another swing. I've got the money to spend. It's burned a hole in my wallet. I'm not going to give max trade capital to go get this guy. Why not? Why not? Jeff Jennings, Wilson versus Milroe. In time, Milroe will be able to throw the same. Will be able to throw to the seam, and Russ never could. It's true, Jeff. It's a weird thing, but a 6'1" guy, even versus the guy that's more of a 5'9" area of things, there are just throws that you can't see at that size that I think Milroe is going to be able to see. I agree with you. He's not a 6'4", 6'5" guy, but he's got enough of that height there where he can see the field when he's dropping back there and find guys. There's not a lot of blind moments there from him, Jeff, to your point. Thomas says, yes, Russ is better, but my problem is that when you're dealing with 4 OCs and 2 head coaches, and one used him like Michael Penix when Milroe isn't even close, passing-wise, Russ is way ahead, but my point, it's on TC. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's horrendous to be throwing a quarterback behind that many coaches, that many OCs, that many defensive schemes, that wide difference of schemes. I completely agree with that. Doesn't do him any favors. He's still a very young kid too, whereas that's maybe another part that Russ had a bit of a benefit. To give your point a little bit more onus here, Thomas. Another thing to consider is that with Milroe, that he is 2 years younger than Russ coming out. I think Russ was at 24 by the time he came out versus the 22 you're getting Jalen. Dune says Russ was on a higher floor coming into the league, but I like to think that Milroe has a higher ceiling. Beautifully put, Dune. You guys always capture it right. I tell you what, you always capture it right. Let me repeat that. Russ was on a higher floor coming into the league, but I think that Milroe has a higher ceiling. I two thumbs up on that one, Dune. 2 thumbs up. Thomas says, I said it before, Milroe needs at least 2 to 3 years before starting Milroe, and if he's not panning out, then trade him for assets. We 100% agree it's there. Thomas, I'm glad to hear that. That's all I'm at the heart of this a little bit on my pushback with is just that I know there's going to be so much in my chat this year that's going to be should we get Milroe out there? Maybe we just got to get Milroe out there. And that's where I'm kind of trying to set that standard here of a little bit of, look, this is not going to be the place we go here. We're going to trust in this plan. We're going to trust that this is the right way to go with it. Because we want this kid, because ultimately what we all want, what I want is this kid to be at his best. I want to get to that ceiling. I don't want to go through this forest and we end up getting dumped in the quicksand that we happen to walk through because we couldn't help ourselves and we took the short path. Take the right path, stay on the path, don't leave it, and none of the animals in the forest will get you, and none of the quicksand will get you, none of the fires, the bog will get you. Just stay on that path. Stuart, did we get rid of Metcalf? Stuart Richardson, I'm a little bit behind on we've got a lot of people in the stream today, so I'm just a little bit behind on the chat. Did we get rid of Metcalf? I heard about it, bro. We did, Richard. Yeah. Metcalf wanted to get out of town. He wanted to be paid early. He wanted to be paid at a high level and 5-year contract at that. Essentially his major last contract in the sport, and he got every last dollar he could on that. Props to him for it. Also just kind of sounded like he was just kind of done with being here. Also might not have been the best of fit, Richard, with the new offense we're going to, which is going to be more built upon. We're running a real wide route tree from the receiver position, and being able to get open in short spaces and change of direction is going to be at a higher level. Yak is going to be as a higher preference at this point for these kind of players that are at the receiver position. So it might not have been as good a fit as well with that. But yeah, we did move on. And sorry, I'm a little behind on the message with it there, Richard. We just got a lot of folks in the chat. Phoebe, $2 donation. Thank you for that. Feed me. It's good to see you, brother. Imagine Jerry Jones if he had to sign Arch Pure Cinema. Listen, I came back to his granddaddy and I said, listen now, Arch. Listen, it's a Southern thing right here, right? Southern thing. Y'all made your money already, right? You don't need your money. What does Arch want? Does he want the best team? Or does he want the most money? The best team, most money. Or does he want to be a cowboy? Does he want to work and be a part of America's team? Part of a team, part of a team. Or does he just want the money? Why don't you go talk to him, Arch? If that don't work, have Eli come, have Peyton come. We're going to make him a cowboy. Yeah, Jeff, if I was laying money down, it would not be the K9's going to get to 15, 16 games this year. That is for sure. I think, Jordan, you're right about the trade capital that you're looking at. Thing to remember with the trade capital there, Jordan, with the Khalil Mack and the 2 firsts and the 3rd and the 6th, is keep in mind Chicago had to throw the 2nd round pick back at them. So when it comes to that extra 3rd round pick in this trade, it's a possibility. But in that trade, the Raiders had to give up a 2nd round pick back to the Bears on that to make that go. Maybe something worth just considering on that a little bit, where that lessens that down just a tiny bit from there. I think it's really about the 2 first-round picks you're looking at, and then whether or not one of your edges could be used as a way to kind of counterbalance that a little bit. I think Orthodox Russ is probably on about where I think the place would be with this, Jordan, where I think it's more likely to be, if it's a Mafe or a Hall you're including, it would be like a 1st, a 2nd, a Mafe, and then maybe you're including another 2nd or another 3rd at that point. Something like that. I would expect that's probably more aligned in the package versus having to do the 2 1s and then you're like giving up the extra, essentially like almost a high 2 equivalent, just about. But you're in the both guys. You're in the area. You're in the camp of where, right around where it should be. I think the hard part about this too is, if I'm not mistaken, so the Khalil Mack trade also happens in March, which I don't know if this makes a difference or not as well on this. It depends on how much interest's out there. But, when you're able to make this trade in March, that's when all the teams have their cap space. That's when you have 32 NFL teams that can theoretically be in on the player, and you can get the bidding war to get the most for the player back in return, when you do get to this place in camp and so many teams have used up their cap space and we're talking about having to sign a player for 42, 43 million on average per year, there's not as many teams that may be as available to go out there and jump into the Khalil Mack pool. Thus, maybe Jerry is not able to maximize out those trade returns if he goes down that road with it. It's one thing I wonder about with the timeline on this from Jerry's perspective. You know, the Bengals have run into this with the Trey Hendrickson situation as well, not moving him at the draft. They move him now, they're going to get less than they would have gotten at the draft if they had moved him there. Richard says, I just hope a big new young defense and improvement from last year is good to go for the Hawks. I think you've got a lot of reason to believe that that's going to be the case, Richard, because you are returning all 11 starters, every one of them. Jaron Reed started some games for you last year, rotational piece in that line, he's back. Hankins started for you on some games last year, rotational piece, he's back. Uchenna Nwosu, dirty hit last year, costed him his whole year. Know he's a good player, he's back. And then you have a Nick Emmanwori on top of that. You brought a Shaq Griffin in for some depth. And that's a defense that was right around that top 10 rate at the end of last season. Understanding it took them kind of half the year to get to where they were starting to get that good. And so top 5 defense, Richard, very much looks like it's in the crosshairs here as a real feasible place. Jordan, if Burrow's available, I'm selling the farm. I think we all would. I think at this point, though, Burrow's gotten satiated with his 2 receivers, and the Bengals probably came to him and said, look, if we're doing this, you don't get to call for a trade. You're stuck now. If you're going to make us pay both of these receivers this crazy amount of money, no getting out of here, Joe. You're Cincy for life. Yeah, not about if we get a ring, but how many if you got Burrow, that's for sure. Snail says, B, I would say you're right, but we also got a discount on Milroe because of AR in Indy. Probably, yeah. Certainly if AR was a success in Indy and he was out there lighting it up, that might have even been, to your point, enough to drive a guy like Milroe up much higher in the draft too. I mean, much, much higher. But that's definitely hurt him, that lack of development from Richardson and player in kind of a similar kind of development space coming out. Nitro, is it me or is Baker Mayfield overrated? I like him a lot, but I don't think he's as good as people think. I kind of feel the same way. I've had a hard time signing up on the Baker experience, though. Part of it, I feel just maybe I've got a bias against him a little bit with that. I just have never been able, even going back to Oklahoma, really get sold on him as a player. But, I mean, what he's done in Tampa Bay has been really solid. Got to acknowledge that, too. I'm hoping your responses, Richard. I'm responding to your deals. Like I said, I tend to respond to most of my chat. I like talking to my thing, and if we get hundreds and hundreds of people in the chat like we do today, it's going to put me a little bit behind where I'm not at the bottom of the chat at all times. But just trying to be respectful of folks in the chat watching it. Just want to respond to everybody if I can, you know. HHG, have you seen the new Battlefield yet? Yeah, I did. I mean, they kind of blew me out on the last one where they said it was going to be cross-play, and then it comes out and they take the cross-play away. It's like, well, nice bait and switch Battlefield. And they're another one like kind of Call of Duty where they're kind of operating off this old engine where you're like, when are you going to update the engine? So it looks like the same damn game from the last iteration. It's cool you can shotgun a guy through a window, I guess. That was pretty neat. I'm open to it being decent. Richard says, what about these new quarterbacks? Did we bring in new quarterbacks? I haven't had enough information. You brought in 3 new quarterbacks, Richard. Drew Lock is back, the guy you got in the Russell Wilson trade. You have Sam Darnold, you signed in free agency after you moved Geno Smith in a trade, and you signed Sam to a kind of a mid-market deal, I'd say, for the quarterback position. You gave him good money, but you didn't break the bank to do it. And he's coming off his best year there with Minnesota. I mean, he had a really, really strong year for them. And then you drafted Jalen Milroe. And now that's for the first time in many years, we've got our quarterback development guy. We've got our guy that we hope to become the starter in the future. He's going to need some time to develop, but he's hyper talented, super mobile, big arm. He's got a little bit of a raw project a little bit. He's got a ways to go to get there, but his talent is really true. And so, Richard, you've not only gone 1, 2, but you've gone 3 deep at the quarterback position now, all of them legitimate. I think it's as many have said that this is probably the strongest that this quarterback room has been, perhaps maybe in the history of this team. That 1 through 3, you have never been this strong at the QB position. And with Jalen, Richard, he's not going to start this year, but you can use him as kind of a kitschy, specialized package guy that you bring out on the field just to give the defense a little bit of a curveball that they have to kind of develop and prepare for during the week. And when they have to prepare for that, that means that's just that much less preparation that they can have for the starting quarterback. Moose is that's good to hear. Assurance at left guard is going to feel weird. It will. It will, man. To finally be steady over there will be definitely a little bit of a, wait, we're okay? We're not just having a revolving door there throughout the whole day? I don't know what to do about it on that. Open beta's 10th. I'll be on the lookout. I'll try it out. I'll give it a run on the 10th, man. I would love it to be awesome. I hope it is. What about it? I have the beta downloaded, ready to go. I'm so hyped for BF6. Let's go. I'm glad you guys are. I need a good game right now. You know what I mean? Richard says, what did happen to Metcalf? Did we get rid of him? Have we replaced him? I think it's a complicated situation, Richard. John Schneider talked about there being a lot of conversations over the years between him and DK Metcalf, and then some of DK Metcalf's discontent in Seattle might have been something that had been around for a while and that had grown with time. And I think it got worse last year, especially with Grubb and some of the interactions there, and it kind of blew DK out. Part of this as well is DK wanted to be paid at a certain point early on in the offseason, a point where a lot of teams aren't as comfortable to do that, Richard, because they want to get their normal order of business done and then get to the contract extension in like June and July. DK wanted it right here and now. He wanted to be paid $30 million a year. He wanted what we know now to be a 5-year contract. I don't know if John would have gone to 5 years. And so you might not have been willing to give him the same money he was going to get elsewhere in addition to that. And so it just kind of aligned up from a standpoint of DK's side of it to being that he drove some of that to a degree. Some of it's being driven from John as well because of the fact that you're changing to a new offense that's built around route running and being precise in your route running. And DK Metcalf has good things he does, but being a precise route runner is not exactly his game. So it's a bit of the, rather than being just like one reason on this, it's sort of like, 5 or 6 reasons as to why you let a talent like DK move on. But it was kind of both camps were at that place of being ready to roll with it. Shadowbot says, the only way I pre-order is if the open beta blows my socks off, and then I'll tape them off to tape them on. I'll be the same way. They're going to have to prove it to me because I bought the last one and I barely played that sucker. Barely. I got a couple donations. I do see we got a big donation here from Greens Farm. I'll be right back, Greens Farm. 1 sec. Just give me 2 seconds here. Thank you for bearing with me. Greens Farm is so kind to come in with a big old monster $50 donation from Greens Farm. Thank you so much for that big dono drop. Let's go. Just absolutely kind as ever in the chat here with your guys' support. I really appreciate it. But you guys are just amazing. Amazing with your donations. And Green Farm, I know you've dropped some big ones in the past. Thank you for that, man. I really, really do appreciate it. It's very, very kind of you. He says, hey, bro, please give your cat some extra love today. My cat passed this weekend from cancer. It's all good. We had a great sending off. I'm currently investing in a baseball right now, but see you when the season starts. Go Brewers. Well, good luck with your brew crew, my man. And I'm really sorry, really, really sorry to hear you. My heart goes out to you on that. Greens Farm, I was about 2 weeks ago. We had my other cat, Xena, and she took a turn for the real worse for me. And she just stopped eating. It went out for a couple days, and you're doing everything you can. You're getting all of her favorite foods. You're doing everything you can to eat, and it doesn't work. And then you take them into the vet, and the vet's just over there like, I don't know. It could be anything. Could be this, could be that, could be that. And we tried a couple things with that, and I was thinking, man, it's getting down to the end here, and she's just getting thinner every day and not eating. And then I got her to just finally start to eat a little bit, and she's now back, running strong, Greens Farm. And it was so cool to see her bounce back. But I was going through the feelings that I'm sure you're in right now where, you've had this companion with you for so many years. You've gone through so much together. And it just seems like the end just comes too fast when it does come at that point, even with those years you had. And you're like, man, this is just, this hurts. It really does hurt. And they are families. They're part of your family. They're part of you in a lot of ways. So my heart goes out to you, man. And I thank you for the donation, but really it does. I was right there on the edge of running into that kind of same situation myself. And it's no fun. I've lost some dogs in my time, and I'm not looking forward to this day when it comes, because I don't think I'm going to deal with it very well. I don't think I'm going to be very mature, and just like you've been with it, where we had a great send off, and I'm probably just going to be a freaking mess. I probably will be, but understandable on baseball. Things are going along well right now. You're in the heart of August here. It's about to get very interesting in the baseball season with that. So hopefully your brew crew's doing well. I haven't had a chance to see what they're up to this year. I've been just, locked in on my Mariners baseball going with that. But hopefully you're getting through it okay with that. And hard to hear. Hopefully your cat had themselves a nice long life before the cancer got them to that. But man, I really thank you for the big time donation, and give Pumpkin here a little bit of love for you. This one's on Greens Farm. Greens Farm wanted me to give you some loves. Okay? You okay with that? Say what's up to Greens Farm? You too sleepy? You're way too sleepy to say anything? Okay. She's saying it psychically, Greens Farm. You're saying it psychically. What does that look about? You're looking at me weird. What are you doing? We got to get you some salmon. Is that what we got to do? Get you a little bit of salmon, huh? Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Greens Farm. You're awesome, brother. Jordan, thank you for the $5 donation, Jordan. He says, Burrow crossed his fingers behind his back during that deal. You guys didn't see my toes. Every one of them, I had them just interlocked in like this, just twisted over one another. It's the sacred code. If it's crossed, it doesn't count. Hey, players can do that, right? They demand something 1 year, and then they come back and they're like, I didn't do that. Prove it. Prove it. Where's your proof? You weren't recording me. But it will be interesting to see in that situation, Jordan, where walking through the practice of it, Burrow comes through this year. He's got no defense. They've got to score a bajillion points to win. They're in a very tough division. They're in a tough conference. Not a pathway to get back to the playoffs again. They come up just short. Does he start squawking? Does he just come to the place of like, it ain't going to happen here? Especially when it comes to this year, Jordan, the one thing with this is the Bengals haven't exactly set the stage for this upcoming season to be a successful one by taking care of all of their business by the time you get into training camp. I mean, you came this close with Shamar Stewart being willing to return back to college for another year, not getting anything with him in the OTAs at that point, getting him a little bit late into training camp. And then on top of that, you've got the Trey Hendrickson situation, which still is out there festering. And this isn't good vibes. This isn't a good way to try to be maximizing out a team that you hope could be a Super Bowl contender if you're going to sign a quarterback and these receivers to these kind of deals like you have. So maybe so. Maybe you're right, Jordan. Maybe he comes back next year and he's like, yeah, psych. I didn't say that. Mark Sanchez, thank you for the $20 donation, Mark. Appreciate your support, man. Very kind of you for that. It says B, during the draft, I was and still am excited that we selected Milroe. I favored Sanders. What I've heard from their camp is that all of the concerns with him are validated and he was drafted appropriately. And John Schneider, I trust. Well, Mark, something that I've said with John, and I'm not giving it lip service even in where my evaluation with Milroe was coming out, but something that I have said with John, which does carry weight with me, which is not just empty words on my part, and that is that John has shown himself to get the quarterback position right overall in his 14 years here in Seattle. The selecting of Russell Wilson, as we talked about earlier in this show, was one that not every team out there was chomping at the bit to do or could see the vision in that one. And he did, and it paid off. And you might have gotten yourself a Hall of Fame quarterback in the third round when it's all said and done. And then the understanding of when to pivot off of Wilson, when it was at the end of the road, when there was going to be the cliff kind of approaching a little bit to the game. And then to pivot to Geno Smith. When, again, nobody's thinking that's going to be a successful situation. Nobody thinks that's going to work out. But that it's really a very nice success. Maybe not smashing success, but it's a success. He was proven right for putting the cart behind that particular horse. And so I look at John with that, the fact that with this, Mark, it's not just the guys that he's backed in this time. It's been the landmines. I dropped on the Clips channel a couple of days ago talking about Will Levis and the landmine you avoided with him, and how many Hawk fans wanted him to be drafted, or that same draft, how many Hawk fans wanted Malik Willis to be drafted. Now, I know Malik has looked a little bit better with the Green Bay Packers recently. We'll see with him, but didn't look good with the Titans initially. And that John's avoided landmines in addition to the decisions he's made. It's been the guys he's avoided. Remembering he went to the Patrick Mahomes Pro Day. Remembering he went to the Josh Allen Pro Day when he still had Russell Wilson on the roster, and boy, did that piss Russ off. So he's got a little bit of what I've tried to say is an eye, I think, Mark, for quarterbacks. And when you've got a track record that is at least that solid, you do earn, I think, a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, especially considering how few swings John has really, truly made at the quarterback position throughout his time here in Seattle, partly because he hasn't had to. But I think that there's a real strong argument to be made with John that he knows what to look for in quarterbacks. He knows which guys to kind of target. And he's earned a little bit of a benefit of the doubt on this one. You want to drag him for the offensive line, be my guest. But when it comes to the quarterback position, you absolutely can't do that. So I feel you on that, Mark. This is a place I would say, and John, I do trust. I do. No matter where my own evaluation is on Milroe, this is one where there is a little bit of a appeal to authority on this, where the authorities are earned the right for the appeal to be to them. You do that well on choices that aren't just easy. It's one thing if you got a GM who's like, yeah, I made Andrew Luck the number 1 overall pick. Give me the GM of the year thing. Go ahead. Which is what they literally did. Instead of that, you've had to find the hard to find one. You've had to unearth the diamond in the dirt. And John's shown ability to do that, Mark. Well said, man. Very well said. And I'm excited for him too. Me as well. I can't wait to see what he can bring to the stage. But thank you for the big fat 20, I said, dollar donation. Very kind of you. Jackie Hong matching that. Let's go, Jackie. Jackie Hong coming in with a $20 donation as well. I really thank you for that, Jackie. Very, very kind of you. You guys are amazing in your support of this channel. I just really appreciate it. It is very, very kind of you guys. I thank you so much. It says thank you and appreciate all of your hard work. Well, it is my pleasure, Jackie. I'm having fun as ever doing this channel. I think we've got a real good new approach here to this upcoming year to really maximize this year out in the right way. Looking forward to this season. I've done this for 6 years and we haven't really had a chance to, cover a contender during a year. That'd be a really cool thing to be able to do this year. But I'm having an awesome time. I really appreciate the support on your part. That's very kind of you. That's a big time donation. And you are amazing for it. Thank you so much. It's easy work for me. It's long work, but it's easy work because I get to enjoy what I do, and I get to just talk football all the time. And I'm a pig in mud, Jackie. I'm a pig in mud, I tell you. Richard says, I think this young, talented players are very important to the Hawks. I think, Richard, they've got the young core in place. That's the first start to getting into a contender. A lot of people want to skip to the end goal, skip to the part where it just becomes the contender magically. But it's a collection of very smart decisions that you stack one on another. It's also how you've built the roster with the young talent all coming forward kind of at the right time. You have young talent that's coming forward, but if you have aging talent that's just about to die, fall off as the young talent's coming forward, you don't have the right kind of kindling and a way to start the fire. It's like you got to have some of the vets, but you got to have enough of the good young talent as well at the same time, and it kind of all goes together for it to really, take that form and light, so to speak. And I think they're in that place too. I agree with you there. I think the Hawks might make a few more deals too, Richard. They got money burning a hole in that pocket, I tell you. Burning a hole. Thomas says San Francisco must be desperate at wide receiver when they signed Robbie Chosen. That's become kind of the default desperation situation, hasn't it? After Robbie had that situation on the sideline where he was screaming at his coach, it just seems like now he's the guy everybody goes to when your wide receiver core is in the crapper. Like he's on auto call. He's become the bat line somehow for if your receiving core is toasted out. But not a good sign for San Francisco, Thomas. not encouraging for that wide receiver core when you're bringing Chosen in. Russ was at SummerSlam last night. If Russell becomes a WE wrestler, I would laugh. That would be hilarious. I can see Russ doing that. Richard says, great act, bro. I love your performance. Well, thank you, Richard. Appreciate your support, brother. Yeah, thank you. Again, too, just Greens Farm, Mark, Jackie, you guys are awesome. Thank you for that support. Really appreciate you. Richard says this year we have to go on a big run of a 12-win, no defeat, have a strong defense and offense, and we do not want to stop with a losing start. Nope. Start strong, start hot, Richard. Just start stacking dubs right out the gate. They got a little bit of an easier schedule this year, so definitely there's an open door to getting this done. Well said. If I were first rejected, I would happily give up 2 first-rounders for Micah and Mafe. The return would be huge. I think you probably could talk me into it, 501st. I think you could probably talk me into it. As others have said in the chat above on this, finding a difference-making edge like this, and I'm saying difference-making edge, not a above average, not a solid, not even a good. I'm talking a difference-making edge. Misfit talked about it with Verse, for instance, or, like what did Verse do for that Rams group last year? Not even getting sacks, just being a force off the edge in that way. Hashtag free Byron Murphy. King, they really have no healthy receivers except Pearsall, and their running backs are all injured except CMC. Eesh. Don't they have Juwan Jennings like kind of holding out, requesting a trade softly too at the same time? Yeah, it's remember last year with the Niners having the year they had, everything was kind of bad vibe city in camp. Everything was, I talk about the good vibes we have. Last year in San Fran, it was a lot of, contract holdouts here and contract holdouts there and injuries here and first round picks injured over there and even worse things beyond that. And it was a little bit of a omen for what was going to be the upcoming season a bit for the Niners. And it's a little bit similar as we kind of lead up into this training camp with Juwan Jennings and the kind of the holdout, hold in, whatever that is at that situation. And some of the other stuff you've heard about them with the health standpoint is they've been a little bit nicked up, it seems like. A little dinged. Outdoors for Life, thank you for the $2 donation. It says, what's with fans wanting Milroe to start? It's weird. I would say it's a little bit outdoors for life, a bit of the nature of the beast when it comes to having a quarterback like Milroe in-house. Considering outdoors, we really haven't had the heir apparent here at the quarterback position. We haven't had that guy that is going to be part of the future since Russ has left. And even in Russ's time, you had him and you were happy with him, but it wasn't like you had a guy behind Russ that was, chomping at the bit, right at his heels to try to challenge him. So the fan base, I think, finds themselves in a place that not only have you not been at recently, there's not been a lot of times in this fan base's history that they've had that heir apparent quarterback on a roster kind of sitting ready to go. You draft a guy like Rick Meyer, you throw him out there, you start him. And so there's a bit of that plays into this, I think, from where the fan base is at locally with this, given the history of the position. Some of this also, though, Outdoors for Life is absolutely just an NFL fan thing. Like, wherever you are in any city, if you have an heir apparent quarterback and you have a guy that some fans might view as a bridge or a guy that you're not sure about being the long-term solution, he's always going to be on tenuous ground a little bit for the heir. And the people want the heir. They want the guy, especially like a Milroe, who's got the big arm, it's got the mobility, he's got the complete, kind of skill set he can bring there where there's not some heavy limitation to him as far as physically incapable of making any throw or physically incapable of running away from any defender in the sport. And that's going to draw them even more to wanting to go grab that guy and bring him out there on the football field. So I understand the nature of it outdoors and that it's a draw from the fan base to do that. But that's where I think also you got to recognize that draw that exists naturally in you as a fan on this and then fight against it, in my opinion, because the downside of it is thrusting him out there, is putting him out there too early before he's truly ready to go. And that's the most important part of this. Not maximizing Milroe as much as possible from day one, but getting him to his best final form, allowing him to get to that ceiling that's way up there. Ceiling that's way up there. Look at how high that ceiling is. Look at how much ceiling there is. But it is still way up there. You got to give him the time to get there. 501st, yes, it would be worth it for Micah. When's the last time we got a guy that good? Michael Bennett, Bruce Irvin? No, he would be the best 501st. Better than those guys by far. And Bennett was a great player, absolutely, but this is another level. This is the best edge you've had in your franchise's history, I would say. Maybe a Jacob Green you could go to and point to maybe. But Mike has had a better start to his career than even Jacob Green did, I would say. So, it's put in perspective. This isn't just it's been 10 years since we have, Exhibit A at the position. This is, I don't know if you have in your franchise's history, this kind of player. Paulie 704 says, Arma Reforger is better than Battlefield IMO. I'm going to have to check that one out, man. Arma Reforger. Okay. Cattail Twitch. Yeah, she's lively today. She's lively. First likes Battlefield better than COD. All right, let's go. I just got to turn on I got a bunch of friends that all play on different platforms, so I need the cross-play to make it go. Micah just needs to switch to 56 if he came to Seattle, Take the LT number. 11 just doesn't look right coming off the edge anyway. Dude Moose, I expect a much improved home field experience this year. There's a buzz this preseason. The 12s have been roused more so this offseason than the last 7 seasons. I think that's fair. It was lively at the training camp practice I was at on Friday, was packed. By far the most packed I've seen of any practice I've been at training camp this year or last year. And it seemed like that the fans were really engaged in the game. I, to your point, I think that in recent years, I felt a little bit of a lack of excitement from the fan base at times and coming up into the season where there's a little bit of what are we going to do really? Vegas has got us here. What are we going to do really? Whatever, Bomber Tory Horton listed as wide receiver 3 on ESPN depth chart. Their depth chart plays a little fast and loose with it. I don't know how certain that is. Richard says, I'm still worried about injuries. When players get injured, it opens up a gap. I feel like we need extra players. I think we got to keep trading. Well, I'm sure they could still round out the depth. We got some places of good depth, Richard. Some places where it's a little lacking. Having that money that you have, you can go out there and make some moves if you have to on it. But it's always something you worry about every year on this kind of situation. What's happened to Pumpkin? She's passed out up there. She is passed out. Thomas says, don't forget, DK wanted to play for a team with a capable starting quarterback and a team that is better than Seattle. Pittsburgh is stuck in mediocrity more than Seattle. Yeah, they're even more ingrained in it, I would say, Thomas. 100%. I don't know if what DK exactly told us was really the full truth. It was kind of an answer that would suffice to the common man or woman, but I think that there was a little bit more at play on this one than that. Richard says, what is our chances this season? We got the strength to go on a Super Bowl. I believe we're improving, but the Super Bowl is the thing we need. I'd probably be a little more confident on this into 2026, making it a prediction like that, Richard. I think that if everything strikes right, you could go on a run like that. So I don't think it's out of control to say that, this team does certainly have the talent to be a Super Bowl capable team. The young talent has to come really far forward for you to get there, though. And that's hard to predict because sometimes the talent can lock in and go. Some of the rookies we got, for instance, this year, sometimes they're going to need that extra year. But you're getting closer and closer to that range of things. You absolutely are. I would say, though, if we're talking, true confidence and first year under a new offensive coordinator this year, bringing in a new quarterback as we are, I tend to think you're going to have success this year. You're going to win more games. You're going to lose. You're going to get in the playoffs. Maybe even can make some noise in the playoffs. But that you'll probably find yourself needing that last more year of development to actually go and get the Super Bowl-like run. Nitro, as much as I didn't like Milroe before the draft, I told myself a few years ago I'll trust in whatever he does at the quarterback, and I think he's earned that pass. Amen. I wouldn't do it with all positions, but I think that this one position, it makes a lot of sense. Kickup says, I'm surprised Bryce and Corbin are that tall. Yeah, they made me look like a midget. Future reference, I'm not sitting between the two giants. I look like a freaking hobbit. I was just about to take my shoes off and show you guys my big Bigfoot feet. Big, hairy Bigfoot feet. I'm like, dude, I'm 6 foot. I'm legit 6 foot. Make me look 5'5" over there. Moonman would love to trade for Micah, but I just don't see it happening. Clowney free agents are stupid for not signing him early, but they won't be stupid enough to trade a 2-time All-Pro on a rookie contract, right? I think you're right on this, Moonman. I think it's fun to talk about this, and I think that there's also a little bit to this situation where my instinct on this is that it is a little touchy, that it's not as much certainty that the Cowboys are absolutely positively going to get this done. There's no blinking of the eye. It's all just a matter of time. I think in general, that's the case where if I'm laying down money, I'm probably saying, yeah, it's probably laying down money that that's the way that's going to go. But I think that there's a little bit of maybe an opening here. And it is a fun one to talk about, as others have spoken about this, to where if it is open, if it were to come to be the Micah tomorrow we learn is on the open market, would Seattle not be one of those teams that could be, one of the highest betting favorites to go and land him because of what they can offer in return? They have the cap space to get him under contract. They got parts and pieces that could appeal to the Dallas Cowboys to make the deal get facilitated. I would wonder that just a little bit, Moonman. But I don't know for sure on that. And I think you're right. Comes down to it, when it's all breaks down to the bottom line on this, it probably is one where he just ends up going back in. I think Nick Emmanwori is going to be your standout from the 2025 class, Martin. He is a great fit for this defense. He is a weapon that Mike just knows how to use, and he's ready to go. I mean, he was so comfortable and smooth in practice. I saw no bad moments of him in 3 days of practice. He was on it. The quickness, the speed, the length, the size, the various of how you can use him, it was all out there and on display. I think he is going to be an impact player. Pumpkin's our lucky charm. She is our lucky charm, man. I agree. Gamey Taco Brando, now that you have seen this rookie class in person, what are your thoughts about it now, especially the Jalen Milroe pick? The Milroe pick's not going to change for me. So I think there's a little bit of a pressure I sense at times from my chat to adjust off of the Milroe outlook I've had with him. I think it's going to be hard because I'm going to try to get into a nuanced place with Milroe, and sometimes this is the toughest place to get in on football takes because people want more. No, give me the in or out. Give me off the fence. Give me the answer that he's either going to suck or you think he's amazing. And this is one of those ones where I go, that's not where I'm going to be at with him. But there's not anything I saw from him with 3 days of camps that changed my outlook of Jalen Milroe in my evaluation of him. I'm giving John the benefit of the doubt. I'm hoping in 2 years this thing does develop. But when it all comes down to it with Milroe on this and the track record I've had in the past of guys that have come out like this, if I'm having to lay money down, if somebody's putting a gun to my head and they're going, Is Jalen Milroe going to be an impact player and amazing off the 3 days of practice you saw? Or no, it's still in the same place where it's a long road he's got to walk to get there. The talent is awesome, but I'm in the very much the same place I've been at with Milroe and my overall outlook with him as a player, which is going to be hard to get this stuff all rounded out. He's got the work ethic to do it. John's earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to quarterbacks. I'm certainly going to be looking at him with hopeful eyes at every turn and looking for those improvements at every turn when I can see him. But I didn't see something substantial in what he had done at practice here versus what some others are talking about, where you hear other people talk about him. And it's like everything's being reinvented. Everything's been fixed. It's all corrected. And I can't say it was that way. I mean, Taco, he threw a variety of different interceptions. He threw a bunch of near-miss interceptions. All of that stuff was still right there. Also the forefront of his game. The struggles in the short and the intermediate game in the passing. All of that stuff was right there. The mechanical difficulties with them. The lack of smoothness on the drop. I mean, all that stuff is still right there. Does it get corrected? Does it not? We'll see. But there wasn't anything I saw from it that pushed me necessarily one way or the other on that. I kind of remained in sort of the same place. Zabel was solid and steady. I think as you'd hope him to be out there at left guard, being that he wasn't a guy that's going to be like, it's going to take him a year to start. He looks ready to start right now. Emmanwori looks like an impact player on the football field. He looks like a difference maker. He's already got 3 interceptions in training camp. I don't remember a safety being this impactful in training camp as a rookie before. I don't. Horton has looked great. He looks like wide receiver 3. He looks like a guy that could push Marquez Valdes-Scantling at some point this year. Love the look of him. Arroyo has been smooth. He looks big and fast for how he is. He seems to catch the ball pretty effortlessly. You know, he's a smooth, some of those big guys can be a little bit clunky with them at times out there. Not a lot from Cable Dewar Richmond. Damian Martinez looked solid in pass pro, okay as a runner. He had a couple runs that were nice. He certainly runs physically. About it. Mark Sanchez, thank you for another $5 donation. Mark says, B, do you think any players that are demanding a trade will be traded? And do you think we will take a swing at any of them? Kind of feels like the McLaurin one feels as close as any of the deals of a guy being moved out of town, which just seems strange to me by Washington and what they're doing and why they're doing it. I don't quite understand that one. That one's one that just makes me kind of scratch my head and go, I don't get it. But they do seem a little bit, you're in Pittsburgh trying to maybe push for this a little bit harder on their end of it. But it does seem like there's a little bit more of an opening on that one and that they don't want to pay McLaurin the $30+ million that he wants to be paid. And, as you saw in Seattle, I think teams are going to become a little bit more careful on paying these receivers, Mark, that kind of high water mark money. I know that for a while here, receivers had been really carrying the day and the prices of them have kept going up and up and up and up. But I think what happened here is with the run game taking more of an onus, with the run game coming back into the forefront, right? With the passing attack starting to struggle a little bit more now with the cover 2 shell proliferation, that means now the receivers are just a little bit less valuable maybe than they were even 3 or 4 years ago. So maybe some of these teams and their hesitancy within that is a little bit representative of that. Like, yeah, we're going to be paying $30 million, but we ain't going to be leaning on you that hard. And you're 30. Don't know if we're going to do it. So that one seems to be the one of any of them that seems kind of most likely to go down on it. But it's also hard to predict these, Mark, because these players can get to the place where they absolutely positively tell you that they're done with the situation. They want no part of this organization. They spit when they talk about the organization. And then they come back the next day and they're stretching the jersey out and they're signing the contract. And you're like, what happened yesterday? So players tend to waffle a little bit on this, We get some waffling. And hey, 10, 20, $30 million, it'd make all of us waffle a little bit, wouldn't it? I don't think we're going to make a trade swing at any of guys right now in the trade market, of the guys I'm aware of. I don't think we would. McLaurin, you bring him in, you have GSN, you have to pay a year from now. I just don't think I think they're happy with what they got from Cup. I think they can put this, Tory Horton's ascent. I think they feel fine enough about the receiver core, especially with how they're going to run the ball. That's just not as much of a push. But I don't see anybody else that at least I've heard about being available out there, Mark. I could have maybe missed the boat on somebody who's been pushed out there and is on the market, but I don't think so. Outdoors for Life, thank you for another $2 donation. And Mark, thank you for your double dip as well. I think DK is actually a great fit in Pittsburgh. I do think it's a good fit in the Pittsburgh offense. I think it's a good fit with Arthur Smith. It's the one thing I worry about is the Aaron Rodgers aspect of it, outdoors for life. But to your point, the fit in Pittsburgh there where you're going to run the ball and you're going to challenge teams that want to be in the cover 2 shell to stay in that cover 2 shell, even though they got the light box. And Arthur Smith knows how to punish you if you're going to give him a light box. He's got some really advanced blocking concepts that he enacts for his offensive linemen to be able to kind of make you feel like he's got an extra guy, that offensive lineman, locking those blocks down, especially when it's lighter. And so now I force the safety up. I've got single high safety. I get situations where DK is truly in one-on-one opportunities on the outside. And then I really target him in those kind of situations. I have Aaron really lock on him in those situations. I think that's the hope there. The thing with that is Aaron tends to be a little bit more back shoulder fade-ish. He tends to be a little bit more like Russ is on the deep balls, where he's going to kind of put it on the man in a spot where the man can catch it, but it's going to be a contested catch, which isn't as much DK's bread and butter on that. But as far as offense goes, it's a better fit offensively into Arthur Smith's scheme for DK than DK in a purified West Coast offense. To your point, outdoor for life. Way better on the other side of that, 100%. Martin says, have a good one, everybody. I'm almost midnight here in Ireland. I'm out. Catch you the next one. Sounds good, Martin. Thanks for hanging with us through the whole time today. Appreciate you, man. Emily Watson, Jake Bobo, Derek Hall, Nwosu, 2026 first-round pick and 2024 fourth-round pick for Micah Parsons. I like it. Very creative, Emily. Most of us just go with the lame-o 2 first-round picks and we don't even really try a lot with it, but you actually put some thought into that. I like it. If you can make that flow, I'd do it. I think they'd want maybe one more second-rounder on top of that, Emily, in that package. I don't think Nwosu is going to carry a lot of value for Dallas there. I think they'll want one more little itty-bitty second rounder thrown on top. But let's not quibble with a little second rounder from Micah. Paulie says, if we do make a trade for Parsons, that says the front office thinks we can compete for a chip in the next 3 to 5 years. You better believe it. Better believe it, which I would hope this front office believes that. If you're planning for 2030, I got some problems. Mookie says, hot damn, Brandon, you're still on air? Yeah, I'm going long today. We're going to wrap it up here soon, but I've been away for a week, so I had to check with my peoples. Micah says, nah, Micah's going to cost 2 first-round picks, 2 day 2 picks, and maybe Reek or Kobe type of cost. Maybe. That'd be the highest overall cost I think ever given up for a player off the edge, if you're giving up that amount, but maybe. Kevin O'Connell, like the video. Thank you, Kevin, for reminding that. Just a quick mention, if you could for me, hit that like button, maybe sub on up. It does help out the channel. We're trying to get up over 20,000 subscribers this year if we can do it. And we are motoring along. We're making progress. What's up, Prime? How you doing, man? Moonman says, thoughts on getting with the NFC West roundtable on how every team camp progress is going positive and negative? Yeah, we'll be doing a show this week, Moonman. So the NFC West roundtable will kick back up on Tuesday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you're not subscribed up over that channel, you want to be subscribed up. Me, Jesse, Jake, and Mike over there with AZ Sports all chop it up every week. And hopefully we can keep expanding on that this year and keep it rolling. But every Tuesday for sure, starting up this next Tuesday onward throughout the football season, you can catch us over on the NFC West roundtable. Nitro Hawk, I was wondering if they gave you a smaller chair on that stream. No, I was just stacked between 2 Nephilim. I've got 2 hybrids on either side of me, and I look like a mudblood. You know what I mean? Guys are gigantic. Dude, you look 6 foot to 6'4" really does separate you out. I'm going to blame it on the chair, actually, at this point, Nitro. I'm going to say it's the chair and not my limitations in size or length. Wow, the boys make me feel tiny. Thumbelina. Dude Moose, you have a cool Malibu rum water bottle travel mug? I do. You can get this at the store right now. This is the Hawks Nest travel water mug. Keeps the water so cold throughout the day. You finding yourself parched, wanting to get yourself some H2O at the right time in this hot summer? Well, go on down right now to the Hawks Nest store. Get yourself one of these today. Get yourself hydrated. Good to see you, Mookie. We go long here sometimes, Mookie. Every once in a while. Mookie says Jalen Milroe stop jumping pass challenge. I better not see it. I don't want to see that crap in preseason, Mookie. We saw it enough in practice. Get it out of your system. That's not going to work it's just like in basketball. You don't want to be leaving your feet in basketball unless you got a plan on where you're going with the ball. You don't want to be leaving your feet and then deciding where you're going with the ball after you've left your feet. Like, I'm just going to jump. Just sort of take into account what I got to do back here as I jump. You end up leading yourself to feeling like you got a force to throw it, which is what we saw from Jalen, and that's where it gets a little bit dicey. King says, I feel like the whole development thing doesn't hit with Seattle linemen. Can't remember the last time Seattle drafted a lineman that didn't come off the rip looking great. That ended up being competent. Maybe Phil Haynes. Damian Lewis was good out the rip, King, at right guard. He was solid. Haynes was okay in pass protection. He can do anything in the run game for you initially. Yeah, that's been back, though, a little bit tracked. I think King Bomber to a lack of having really solid offensive line coaches as much as anything else. Say nothing of not the greatest of play callers. And I think that's definitely something that the front office has pointed to, too, King. Mookie says, Cable Dude did center reps with the twos today, apparently. Wow. Cable Dude at center, huh? Olu was out? That's not good. Hopefully they're just resting him, Mookie. It's getting a little light at center right now, especially trying to bounce Sundell all over the place. Ryan says, oh man, I just thought about it. If our O-line can go from 25th rank to 15th rank, I can see Walker having 1,300 plus yards this year, maybe even 1,500. Yeah, I can see it for sure. For sure. Walker's got the ability. You just got to get him the run blocking, man, and the right scheme. Give me Taco. Brandon, where did you and the boys end up going for dinner? We went down to this awesome spot called Aqua, right down on the water in downtown Seattle. Shout out to Dan for getting us hooked up down there, as it was a tremendous experience. Just phenomenal food, so delicious, and a really cool environment down there as well. We just missed the sunset, but I highly recommend Aqua down there. It's a nice little spot and tasty food, man. Tasty, tasty food. Richard says, I think Metcalf got greedy with his wages. How much do players need these days? We need players who are not greedy. $30 million is ridiculous. It's tough. You pay that cost, and you have to kind of pull from another place on your roster. Richard, you're right about that in that it's no small sum. And if you're going to pay that guy that amount of money, you better be sure about what you're getting back in return. You better have a guy that's a purified fit for the scheme you run, which is not something that you could say with Metcalf at that point. It is a bit of the nature of the beast at times with this, but I think this is why you got to be careful with it and not just auto pay these guys when they come up to be due. You got to make sure that you're not paying for past performance, but that you're paying for future performance. So I get where you're coming from on that. It's a lot of money, and it would be nice if more players that were at that high water mark would take me that little tiny bit of discount. I certainly think that's with quarterbacks, where it's like, just take a little bit of a discount, get another extra player, get another extra receiver that they can afford with that. Make you look better for it. But can't also fault these players too much, Richard, where they do have really short shelf lives in the NFL. The average career is, 3 years? And, you got to get while the getting's good a little bit. In DK's case, while he had been paid once prior to this, he did come out on a second-round contract where he wasn't making as much. So not a guy that's made, hundreds and hundreds of millions in the sport either on the other side of it. Gaming, I'm excited to watch the Seahawks' first preseason game against the Raiders. Everyone better give a standing ovation for Pete and Geno, too. I think they will. I don't think there'll be any bad blood there on any of those cases. Jordan, in DK's case, he did have a surgically repaired neck in college. I'm fine with him wanting all the money he can get. If we can't pay it, let another team. Yeah, I feel that way, too. Brian, I'd been here earlier, but I have vitreous detachment in my eye and need to be dilated. Ooh, that sounds painful. I can hardly see what I type here. Well, hopefully you're feeling better, Brian. That does not sound like fun. Brutal. Richard, bro, what do you think of my Nottingham Forest side doing well in the Premier League in England? We are a top sideshow now. Nicely done. How's Robin Hood though? Is he goal keeping well? I wish I knew anything about the Premier League, my man. I've tried soccer. I just can't quite get there. Once you got football in your brain, Richard, and you've had all the guys out there being physical, and you get a couple of those flops, you're just like, okay, I think I'm good. But congrats, man. You're not making it interesting. Brian B, enjoying some liquid sunshine in the 509. Rare summer rain in Hell's Canyon, bro. Let's go. Let's go. That's the way to do a summer right there. That's doing summer right. King says, didn't go through a season of being bad and then development, etc. Why I have low hope for guys who aren't looking good off the rip. But maybe Ben will change that here. Potentially so, man. It's been a problem. Until they get it fixed, it's been a long time issue here. I think it's worthy of being worried about, King. Valid concern. And yeah, Jordan, modern offensive linemen are just harder to develop. That's been a big problem with it too. You need the right offensive line coaches, but that doesn't remove the fact also these guys are coming out raw and needing more training and teaching than ever before. Yeah, they tend to hide you're right, Jordan. They tend to hide their issues instead of trying to actually develop the skill set. And if it's a college with a lot of patty cake and spread offense, they're doing no pro style stuff. They're doing very little run blocking. You just don't get as much advancement as you'd like. Not enough reps. That's right. Dean Petrosaurus says Rams are gearing up for a Super Bowl season. How you guys doing? I was going to say that's us. That was going to be my answer, Dean. I was about to ask you about the back, man. I heard from a doctor that Stafford's got the back of an 88-year-old woman. I don't know if that's true. I mean, that's just the sources out there I'm hearing, you know? Brittle. Those are the words I'm hearing emanating from LA. Brittle. Very brittle. Jordan says high school and college coaching are failing players in that regard. Yeah, it's a little bit of, you're trying to keep your job at those given areas and you're going to do whatever you can to get success. And, it's easy to kind of go to these spread concepts and make it nice fun and you're just throwing the ball all over the place. And, you're doing a lot coaching wise at that point, as opposed to players just moving guy A and guy B out of the spot to clear him from the hole and let's go. Maybe it'll be cylindrical too. Maybe some of this turn back to the running game will continue to grow with time and that we see that part of the game come back more to the forefront. You never know. It did come from the high school college side of it. Well, this is what this has come from that eventually informed the NFL. It wasn't the NFL informing college and Pee Wee leagues essentially of it went down that way. It kind of came up from low. They kept getting so many of these spread style offensive linemen. The NFL just said eventually, F it, we'll just go to spread. Jordan says Stafford one hit away from his body turning to dust. Really is, man. And that back is one that I'd be really worried about as a Ram fan right now, looking at it going, is this thing going to hold up? And hopefully so, but it's not a good sign when you're already looking at multiple specialists before you even got into one preseason game. King, we need to go 4-0 against Stafford and Purdy, so our record goes from a 1-11 combined to 5-11 combined. That would look better. CR, hello from Germany. What's up, my man out there in Germany? CR, how you doing? Late for the party as always. Talking about Parsons for a few days ago, and now we have him requesting a trade. Still love the idea. If we could get him and Clowney, that would be scary. Very scary if you could add both of those two guys. Could you only imagine a defense with that and DeMarcus Lawrence and maybe one of a Derek Maffei or Hall? Yeah, that'd be the best in the sport, I think, by far, by a mile. At that point, I'm open to it. I think a lot of fans are open to it. CR, I think we're just trying to figure out if, how much has Jerry really pushed this thing to the brink or how much of this is standard operating procedure for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know at this point on that. It's hard to kind of say. It does seem like it's twisting in not a good direction for the Cowboys. It does feel like if you're going to try to get this thing, back on the road, that you need to twist that steering wheel real sharp and real hard and real fast at this point to get this deal done. And that you just let this thing continue to kind of metastasize out there a little bit, that this could end up kind of rotting out the negotiations as a whole. But hard to say. Jerry's weird with it. He's got a manner of doing things. He's got underlying motivations for why he does what he does, which isn't always about trying to just get a deal done or get the deal done at the right price. It just makes it hard to predict. Really does. Kevin O'Connell, why wasn't Brendan at practices? Yeah, he might be out a little ways. I think he had some other stuff going on. CR, would you be willing to give up Parsons? Would you give up for Parsons, Hendrickson, Mafe, Charbonnet first and a second? What would it take? I think you're looking at probably a 2 firsts and probably kicking in a Mafe Hall. Something like that. CR is probably the cumulative of what it would cost, which is essentially becomes a two ones and a second kind of situation, I think. I would not be doing it for Hendrickson at this point. I think that you're just, he's a little bit too advanced in age, and just the Parsons one makes more sense. The familiarity with Dirty, 4 years younger. I just, there's a little, you've got ability to use Parsons in a way with this McDonald defense where he truly is a chess piece that you can move around a little bit too. Inside, outside, off-ball linebacker, spot dropping into space. I trust in Parsons and to be able to do all that stuff. I can't trust in Hendrickson as much to do that type of stuff. And so I wouldn't do it to Hendrickson, but yeah, sign me up for Parsons, man. Sign me up. Phoebe says, Hawks Nest, remember those funny cartoons in magazines or newspapers? That's Jake when he posts about his takes. Oh, we got some Germans talking Germans to each other in the chat here. Let's go. Dean says, didn't say it'll be easy. We have some obstacles. We're stocking up on duct tape to keep Stafford upright. Yeah, just a little extra glue, Dean, They get up to that age, you just got to, hold and manage it together. Look, I'm joking a little bit, Dean, with it. The Rams are right now. I really will say this. They've earned the right now to be the front runner in this division for this upcoming season, to be looked at as the team that is at the top. We've got to knock you guys off of it. We got to beat Stafford. We struggle to do that. That's on us to prove. And with the Niners, they feel a little bit on, trepidatious land right now as they stand. They feel a little bit like those Super Bowl windows almost already closed to me just a bit. But with the Rams, if Stafford is healthy, you're as dangerous as hell, man. And you haven't had a bad offseason either. There absolutely is that team that can go out there and win this division this year. There's no doubt about it. I think it's kind of a little bit opened up. I think there's a few teams that have a run at this, but certainly the Rams with a healthy Stafford are dangerous. Yeah, just get the Gorilla Glue, man. That's just the key. Then you don't need any extras with it. There's no rope or any of that. Just do a gob of the Gorilla Glue right up his spine. Be good to go. Bomber says Stafford stepping down and handing over the throne to Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, Brandon's in the Puyallup area. That's where I think that's where he resides out at. Manuel Velasco says Kevin Givens is going to miss time for the Niners. So some injuries kind of starting to mount a little bit on the Niners side here and there too. They're already a little bit low when it comes to the wide receivers as it stands. So interesting. All right, well, we've got over 3 hours here today in the chat. I think we've covered some things pretty well end to end on this side of things. I thank you guys for watching today. If you can for me, do please hit that like button and get all subbed up to the channel if you get a chance. It's kind of it's a thing I ask a lot, but it does help out a bunch if you can do it. I really do appreciate those that did sub up today and hit that like button. Thank you for that. Programming notes for the week. We come back at you tomorrow. I may have a show midday for you or not. I got to kind of work on some content for that for tomorrow. So we're going to be seeing if we got a show midday for you. But we are coming at you at 6 o'clock tomorrow on the NFC West Roundtable. It's a separate channel here on YouTube. I participate with other NFC West folks. So do please get subbed up over that channel. We're going to have a big year over there set up. We get started here on Tuesday, 6 o'clock tomorrow on that. We're going to come back Wednesday with Brendan, do the B&B show at 12 o'clock with a game preview of the Raiders preseason game, which will be on Thursday Night Football. Dun, 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 dun. dun, 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 dun. So Thursday Night Football, Raiders, Seahawks. You know what I'll be doing on that day? We got play-by-play. We're going to be doing the post-game stream. We'll be getting a little bit of a wrap-up video for you guys. So we got a lot lined up here for the preseason contest coming up for your Seattle Seahawks as well, in addition to that here on Thursday. So get geared up. Content is going to be coming fast and furious here now as we are in the full roll. We're into August now. It's real, okay? Take out the blanks now. Put the live ammunitions into the magazine, okay? Can you do that for me, please? We're ready to roll. Let's lock in. A couple last questions here. TheSeahawksNest. Ever tried the Seahawks roster builder from German Seahawkers? Quite fun and a cool way to predict the 53-man roster. I will try to look that up. Builder German Seahawkers. I'll take a look at it, man. I could use something like that. It gets harder when you got to sit there and copy and paste and pull this and copy and paste that. If I can just, ding, 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 makes it a lot easier. The bread at Aqua was elite. It was all really good, though. That was some tasty. It was pretty tasty. Kendrick Lamar in the house. What's up, Kendrick? And Dean, thank you for stopping in here. You're always welcome in here. Rams fans, Niner fans, we welcome all parts here. There'll always be a little bit of light ribbing, but always love the perspective of outside fans coming in here. We like that here, especially when it's respectful. King Bomber, Tory Horton season, it's on, man. It's going down. And Mookie, I had a great time with you out there this weekend, just doing that with you and the boys. We got to do that. Like I said, we definitely got to make this an annual tradition with this. And just keep expanding every year as we go with it, man. I'd love to do that. What's up, B-Film? Yeah. Seahawks football, baby. Seahawks football, we're here. We're here and we ain't going away. We're here and we're ready.
Target neutralized.
So I hope you're ready too. We got our Seattle Seahawks for the first football game in just a couple of days. You got your Seattle Seahawks team coming together in training camp. You got a defense cooking it up. You got an offense coming along. I heard they won the day-to-day, so they're getting bit by bit better and better. You got flashes from the rookies. You got dominance from the rookies and a Nick Emmanwori. You got a team that is coming together here under year 2 of Mike Macdonald and looks like it's about ready to be the real deal. So I don't want you sitting here thinking about 2026. Hey, yeah, the Mariners are doing great. I can pay attention to the Mariners and I can pay attention to the Seahawks. So you better be locked in, you better be loaded, and you better be paying attention to this team because they just might surprise you this year. So don't you ever forget, don't you do it, don't you dare do it. Go Hawks.